really it. You can buy whatever you want when it comes to the Express LRS hardware that works for you, as long as they're on the same frequencies, and they will work together. So that makes things pretty simple. One other thing to watch out for with Express LRS, I'm a micro person. I like to use, I use a lot of Whoop type boards and a lot of builds these days. You have to make sure that you have a free UART. And that's a question I've been getting a lot about particular boards, and I have to go to the board manufacturer's website and look at the board. So you need a full UART, meaning you need a full RX and TX, and they need to be the same number. So if it's RX2, it needs to be TX2. If it's RX1, we need to have a TX1. So oftentimes it just says R1 and T1 because the boards are so small, but you need a full UART in order to be able to wire up your receiver and those to be able to work with your protocol. Sometimes in some of our Whoop boards we might lose smart audio. I don't have a running index of those. If you've got smart audio selected on UART2 and you see RX2 and TX2 is your UART pads and your boards and it's the only ones you got, it's very likely you'll lose smart audio in order to be able to run Express LRS. That's just kind of the way it is until we see some of the board manufacturers catch up. Sometimes, hopefully, that RX and TX is associated with the onboard receiver, which at that point, when you're running Express LRS, you don't care. And probably the thing I should have mentioned at the get-go is one of the reasons why I advocate for this so much, especially being a micro guy, is we can do this for relatively inexpensive, get tremendous feature set in the software, and we can get rid of D8 mode. We don't have to deal with receivers and deal with FrSky and their firmware additions. We just really D8 or D16. I know D16 still works on both the radios, but kind of playing difficult. You never know what your receiver is going to come with, so you might have to flash it, then you might not have what you need to flash it, so then you're in a waiting game or you have to go find somebody that helps you with that. So anyways, that's one of the big reasons why I'm a huge advocate for Express LRS. The hardware is inexpensive. They work together. You can get tiny little receivers. Tiny little receivers. This one's still wired up. Been sitting on my desk for a while. You probably can't even see that. It's got that little square antenna on top. It's actually made of plastic. But, I mean, this, every time somebody posts a picture of this receiver and they say, I heard it was small, I didn't know how small. These things are tiny. Weighs a half a gram. And when you're doing micros, that's awesome. Happy Model ES24TX Slim Pro. It used to look like, used to be bigger. Used to have the Iron Man on it. I never had that one. There was a few shops that were selling those. I think those still work fine. This is a new, smaller module, and it's probably got a little bit of different construction. Of course, I can't compare that for you. This should be hitting the store shelves. You'll see some product listings on some websites for this, and I'll put whatever listings I can find down in the video description. I have a couple other videos about Express LRS. I'm not a wizard at it. I would highly encourage you, if you have any difficulties, I'll sure try to help you, but if you have any difficulties, hit the Express LRS Discord server. They've got a good group of, a big good group of people that really know their stuff, and they've helped me a few times. So, you know, if you got a question, sure, I'll take a whack at it, but it's very likely we'll have to go over to the Discord and ask for, especially those one-off questions. You know, I've done a number of these receivers now, and I was testing this one, by the way. If you follow the channel closely, I was doing some video reception testing and just kind of wondering if the receiver was causing an issue, and I also tested this hardware with that one. But this is on the market. Express LRS, I think, is the way to go, especially for micros, and for those of us that are just common folk out here trying to have fun, have a good time. I think it's going to work great, and I'll put links, as I said, down in the video description to where you might be able to pick up the Happy Model ES24TX Slim Pro. And that is the one I would recommend at this time if you have an X-Lite, whether it's the Pro version or not, or if you have a Tango 2. I just think the construction is better, and that fan could be important, especially if you have heat like I have heat. I don't know what the thermal limits are of this hardware, but it gives me a little bit of peace of mind knowing that that fan is on, so it's doing its job to help do some cooling. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching. gentlemen, today we are taking a look at the Flywoo Firefly 18.
G'day, you absolute legend, Stu from UAV.
Alright, so we're checking out the new Express LRS modules from Happy Mile. These are the Pro Series. I have the Micro version here and the Nano version. So Micro and Nano refers to the module size. So the Micro version here is mostly plastic, and pretty much all plastic here for the module cover. But the Nano version is pretty much all metal. I think it's some kind of aluminum. It does feel heavier and quite robust, pretty strong looking. Now where it grabs onto the module bay with these metal clips, it does, it is a very tight fit. So I have broken actually some of these clips on some of these module bays with this one because it's a little bit too tight. So something to keep in mind if you want to have a module that's going to be, you're able to take on and off. So the Pro Series is now 1 watt capable for both of these. They both have LEDs and cooling fans, no screens or no OLED screens or joystick buttons for either of these. And these both came with version 1 firmware, so I did have to update them to version 2. I updated the Nano module here with the micro USB port there using the UART method, and that worked fine. You have to select the Pro Series target in Express LRS for version 2.0.1. Now the micro module, as you can see, does not have any kind of USB port, so you have to do the Wi-Fi method on this one. And since this was on version 1 when I got it, I had to use the version 1 Lua script to put this into Wi-Fi update mode, and then I connected to the Wi-Fi hotspot at the 10.0.0.1 address. I compiled the firmware, I created the firmware.bin file in the configurator, and I used the Wi-Fi method, but I did not use the build and flash, just the build, and then it would open up a folder with the bin file, and I actually saved it to my phone, and then connected to the Wi-Fi hotspot with my phone, and uploaded the firmware to the module that way. It's pretty typical of a lot of other Express LRS modules that use the Wi-Fi update method. I know that there's always going to be someone out there who's going to, hey, can you make a specific video for this specific module for my specific hardware? And I've already made some videos in the past on other updates for other modules, and this is pretty similar to those. Also, you can follow all the instructions on the expresslrs.org website. There's several different methods outlined there that explains everything on how to do the updates. So you're not going to see a specific video for your exact setup on my channel. So if you need someone to do that, you should probably ask someone else to make a video for you for that. But if you look at the playlist link in the video description, you might be able to find an older video that actually has a little bit more detail on how to do the update, because I've done those videos in the past. And you notice here that the micro module comes with the new Moxon antenna, which looks like this. And it's SMA, of course. All Express LRS modules have SMA antennas. This is yet another one. Now, when I received my sample for review for the Slim module here, this came with a standard like T antenna, also SMA, and I believe now if you buy this, it will come with a new antenna. So if you're wondering about it, unless the store has old inventory, you might get the old version with this T antenna. The difference in terms of gain is not much. This is a 4 dB, and I think this one's like a 2.7 dB antenna. So, unless you're really looking for a super long range, I'd probably just go for the micro version. They're both 1 watt, so you're going to probably get the new antenna. So, it really doesn't matter, I think, at that point. I'm just looking at the profile of this module compared to the Namino. You see it's a thinner profile. Obviously, it doesn't have a screen or anything like that. But I think the Beta FPV is also like this, kind of thin, doesn't stick out as much out of the back of the radio. So for some of you guys who are worried about that. And also in terms of the fit, some modules will fit better than others. It really depends on the radio, because we're going to see some differences in the sizes of the module itself. Also differences in the sizes of the module bay based on which radio you use, because not every radio has the exact same module size bay. So something to keep in mind. But I didn't have any problems with this in terms of the radios I used. It fit fine. I know that some QX7s, I think older revisions of this have tighter module bays, and some of these newer modules have a hard time fitting into those. But I think that's a problem with the radio. Some radios have module bays that are not sized correctly. So most of the modules I've had have been working in the radios I've used, so something to keep in mind there. Okay, so I just want to show you what the fan sounds like. So this is the heavy model ES24TX Pro, and go ahead and turn the transmitter power up, because right now I think the power is at 100 milliwatts and no fan is on, so it makes no noise. And we'll go ahead and boost up the power here. It says 500 milliwatts. So it's a pretty noisy fan. Take up to 1 watt. And yeah, it's pretty much the same noise. And just to show you that we are now on version 2.01 on this module. Alright, so I'm going to show you the fan noise on the slim module here. I'm using a nano to micro adapter. So also on 2.01. Take it up to 500 milliwatts. So this is smaller, it's got a smaller fan, so it's not nearly as noisy. And here it is on 1 watt. But keep in mind, while the fan's smaller and not as noisy, maybe there's not as much cooling, and this will get a lot warmer. So it is all metal, so if you're holding the radio, you probably want to be careful you're not touching it with your hand if you're up at the full 1 watt power rating. Alright, so here's a quick look inside the micro module. And so I know the Namino and Kappa model modules, the heatsink is on the wrong side, or the opposite side of the chips. Looks like they have done this correctly on this one. Looks like the heatsink here is on top of the chips. Got your micro FL connector there, it's got some adapter. Here's the fan, pretty tiny, and the connector to the board for the fan. So yeah, this is looks like a pretty solid design. It looks like the heat dissipation should be pretty good on this one, and I think people will not complain about the fan blowing on the wrong direction, but it is a pretty loud fan nevertheless. On the nano module, this is what it looks like. So there's no heatsink. I think basically this all metal casing is acting as a heatsink, because it does get pretty warm on high power. And you see, I think this is a pretty similar, very small fan. But anyway, yeah, that you just have their board here with all the chips on it. No heatsink that I can see. There might be, maybe something underneath here on this side. But I think that they are basically using the casing as a heatsink, and the fan is blowing air on top of the chips to cool it down. But this will get a fair bit warm because, again, the casing is acting as the heatsink. Okay, so that's it for this video. Let me know if you guys have any questions about these 2 new modules. Again, there's a lot of modules out now and more coming. They have a lot of similar features, so check the Express LRS playlist down in the video description.
Maybe hopefully it will remove my RXSRs and my XM Pluses. That's kind of what I'm in the middle of doing here. I will have a playlist of everything that I do with the Zorro, so I'm going to have unboxings of everything that I'm going to be going through, some tutorials on binding and flashing firmware, how to flash the RXSR with your Radio Master, because there's a lot of binding flies out there via RXSR. So definitely going to be going through that. Let's go ahead and get into this. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to open this up. What's in here? What do you get? How does it fit on the radio? How much does it weigh? How does it fit in the carrying case? Things of that nature, so that I can continue on with getting things set up. And then I'll probably be doing a video on this, flashing firmware and stuff like that. So make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell for those to come. So in this video, we're going to take a look at this little dude and see what it's all about. So stay tuned. this opened up and remove the tape. Nothing really on the back. And there's nothing in here to keep this from flopping around. No foam or anything. So the module's in a little static bag. Looks like you get the Express LRS. This is the 2.4 gigahertz version. And get a little antenna for that. You do want to make sure that that antenna is on your module before you power up your radio. It'll burn it up. Little stickers. I assume there's a... Okay, so that's probably your manual. Okay, website, official Facebook group. Where's the manual? There's never a manual. It's like you get a new little sticker so the LED can shine through it. I don't know if that's a lens in there. If you know what this is, in comments, let me know. I got another one of these with the other module that I have. So anyway, little dust cover. Your SMA connector. This will be your SMA female and your SMA male. Yeah, you definitely want to have this screwed on to your module when you power it up. You'll burn this module up. Oh, it's all metal. I feel how cold it is all the way around. Looks pretty good. So on this module, I was told that this thing's quite power hungry, that this thing gets pretty warm. So I wanted to make sure that I powered my radio from an external source. So I don't have any 18350 barrel batteries in here. So those compartments are empty, just to kind of save weight. There's no use in having them on there. I've already checked the radio during the unboxing video that it does have an internal battery supply, so you're not losing settings. And of course you get this little dude here, so you can plug it into an external source. And I already run a 5200 mAh pack for my light, for my goggles, because I like to, I mean, it's an all-day fly event. I want to DVR some things, so the battery would just die so quick on me. I was tired of charging it all the time, so that's the way I got that. So this radio can handle 2S only, and this is a 2S battery, and that's how I'm powering it. So I shouldn't have any issues whatsoever of, draining the battery so much. I know that a lot of guys are putting a little backpack battery right here in the back, but I'm already running that. So go ahead and put this on the radio after we get a weight. Let's kind of see how much. I'll be honest with you, this thing weighs quite a bit. I have the exact same one. This is the Pro as well, and this is for the TX16S. This is a JR module. There's a lot of history in JR, but we're not going to get into that in the video of how this came about, the shape and everything. So you can see the size difference between the JR and the Pro. And let's get a weight in case you already have that one. I was kind of surprised really when I was holding on to this case. I thought, man, that thing's kind of heavy. All right, so the JR module style is 5838. 5584. That surprised me. I thought this thing was going to be, hopefully with it being metal, it'll extract the heat a lot better. Just because you don't have as much airspace around inside, because this thing here, there's quite a bit of airspace, and there's also a big heat sink inside. I haven't opened this up yet, so I'll probably look at the internals of it eventually. Looks like there's a USB-C. No, that's it, just the USB, micro USB on the side of it, and nothing else, no buttons, no nothing. So I'm going to pop it into the back of the radio here. Not sure if that all up weight, 416 grams, which is a fraction of my Radio Master TX16S. Dude on the back here. Looks like it's kind of a midway. Pretty tight. It's not picks and pops to make that happen, but at least it's secure and it's not gonna come off there. You can basically hold the radio up with it. Just kind of wallers around, looks like because this edge is kind of an angle, it does want to sit. So it just teeter-totters on this angle point right here. So this one here, I was kind of wondering what the fitment would be like, because this one, I had to take a file and shave like a bunch of plastic off here. I had to get inside here and shave plastic because these would not clip on to the radio. This thing was quite something. I had to modify it quite a bit, shave a lot of plastic off in here too. So after shaving that, I finally got the clip in nice and snug, and before this one here was in, it just kept popping out. So I'll save that, and I'll save this. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Just so you know, just for your information, I've taken the EP1 receiver and I've put that into one of my super duper mega ultralights. So one of these bad boys. This thing is absolutely wicked. 230 grams all up with a 4S LiPo on it. I've got a full build video. It's in a playlist. There's like 8 or 9 videos to get everything you need to know to build one yourself. This thing is really wicked. But I took the RXSR out of it, so I've been phasing these RXSRs out. The XM Plus RXSRs, I'm convinced the hype is real. The Express LRS is much better. Because I flew this quite a few times with the RXSR, and then I put the EP1 in there, and it was just very buttery. I don't know how else to put it. But I do have a video on how to update the module, how to update the receiver, get everything working correctly. So that's like a 50-minute video of removing, how to remove this. So in case you have a bind and fly, how to take that out, how to solder this in, the wiring, pin out, all of it. It's all in there. If it's not in there, let me know in comments. But so that's something for another video. So we have our module on here. Just kind of looking at. I mean, it does get my middle fingers here, but not too bad. Added a little bit of girth to it. I don't think I'll even really notice it's on there. Does give it a little bit more weight, that's for sure. I have the AG01 gimbals already. I'm not going to put them in. I'm going to fly this first, kind of proof these stock gimbals, and then put the AG01s in, and then say, is it really worth it? So that video will be coming maybe, hopefully it wouldn't take more than a month to get a few hundred packs on these, and then a few hundred packs on the AG01s, and see what I think about the difference. Let me grab the carrying case. I was kind of interested here to see if this thing would even fit down in here with that on. You can see here, not all bent up. And I have an unboxing of this case in case you're wanting to know. It'll be in the playlist. All right, so let's go ahead and turn this bad boy on and see what that fan sounds like. So I have a dummy model in here, so if I go to my models and I go up to the Zorro, this is going to be my dummy model. This will be the one that I kind of do all kinds of stuff with. So we need to go into that model, pretending that it's a real model, and slide up here to the external module. Make sure the internal one is off, because that's the 4-in-1 internal module that's in here. And then the external module, we can switch that to the correct one. It's all alphabetical. So Crossfire is the mode that you want, because it runs off of a Crossfire. I'm not sure how they do that, but baud rate 400K is what I plan on going with, and 500 hertz. And then we can go into the system, and then go to Express LRS. That's the firmware that's on the external module. It should go through all of its things. So we can go down here. So I want 500 packet rate, because I'm going to be flying mostly racing right in front of myself. Loop racing, the Super Duper Mega Ultralights. I really enjoy just listening to it. So I fly really close to myself. if you're gonna do some range, you might wanna drop that down a little bit. In that video, I explain a lot of those things, but it really is like several days of reading, couple weeks for bed. It's a really good website, so enjoy that. The power, so we have 100 milliwatt and 250 milliwatt, 50, 25, 500, 1000. So you could, push a watt out of this thing, and the fan threshold is 250. Now I'm running 100 milliwatt because I'm right in front of myself. There's no reason to gobble up all the juice. I haven't flown with a lot of guys with Express LRS, so they're not really stomping on me to where I would have to go up to 250. But I do want my fan on. I would like to have my fan on at 100, so I can go ahead and return here. And return here. Hold down out there. Oh, that fan is really tiny. I can barely hear it. I'm holding it about 2 inches away from the microphone here. Oh yeah, I can feel the breeze coming off of it. So the fan's pretty powerful, and this thing is connected really tight. I mean, it would make me a little anxious trying to pull it off of there. And then you can see here the LED lit up through there. Oh, that's interesting. You hear that? That'd be the fan kind of moving up and down on its own shaft. So yeah, looks pretty good. Go back to system here, go into our, so we can connect it Wi-Fi, bind it up. I don't have to mess with binding now. So if you set that flat on the thing, that's kind of dumb. If you set your radio flat down on it, it literally is on the fan. So if you set your radio down on a flat surface, it literally covers up the fan. Okay. What do you think about that in comments? It lays flat right on it, suffocating it. There's no way to really have the radio in an angled position. I imagine, there's some mounting points here. You can put some sort of bracket across it, which I might be looking for something like, I don't know if they even have something like that. Well, it'll be interesting to see what the range is and what it's like to control the radio, as far as, the link quality between the external module and the quadcopter, if it'll match the TX16S. Is it going to be very similar to this one, or is it going to not? I really don't like that fan, you put that down and it suffocates the fan completely. Let's bump this dude up. Might as well, you're here. Let's go over here to the power and go ahead and push it up to the, let that run for a minute. Yeah, I really like the form factor of this thing. When I grabbed a hold of this radio at one of the races, I was kind of messing with it for a while. I can't remember if he had to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey man, I need my radio back." And I thought, man, I'd like to have one of them someday. The nice thing is I don't have to move my hand around to get. For me, with the TX16S, I have to actually move my hand to get into that upper corner on both sides. And on this one here, it's I don't have to move my hands around at all. They grab a hold of, basically just naturally grabbing the radio. There's really no other position I would want. It's right there every time. If you've flown for any amount of time, when you move your hand while you're in the middle of a race or you're in the middle of doing something, it messes with you. For me, with the TX16S, I was constantly moving my hand around, And I think this is just gonna be something that I like better. I mean, it's a little bit warm, for sure. I don't know what that would be like. I know that right now I'm at about, my ambient temperature is around 74 degrees. And I don't know if it was a real hot day out, but you definitely want to be careful not to set that down on something and suffocate it. There's got to be some sort of mounting point here on both sides, that there's some sort of bracket to keep this up off the table so it doesn't overheat. But yeah, hey, let me know in comments if there's anything you'd want to know more about this, or basically any.
Hello, I've got a tiny Happy Model ELRS receiver. It's one of the ones with a little ceramic antenna, which you can't see very well. I'll show you a close-up of it. But it is absolutely tiny and it has no trailing antenna. The idea is you can put it internally in a really small model and it's just going to sort of work and not have any bits floating around. Obviously, I'm interested to know what sort of range you'll get on this. It's not something you'd put in something you'd want really massive range from. But I figured if I put it in a toothpick, will I get all the range I want from something? The other thing is, of course, this is from Happy Model, which has produced some ELRS receivers. I don't have a Happy Model module. For 2.4, I have this Nimno model, so I'm really interested to put them together because, of course, they just should work. I also have to say big thanks to Gaff, who's one of my Patreon supporters and runs the FPV shop Your FPV, which is in the UK. So if you're in the UK, don't forget to check his store out in case you want some receivers like this. Of course, the other advantage of these receivers is they're much cheaper than sort of a FreeSky equivalent and should go further. So let's find something to put it into, and when I install it, I'll need to put my firmware on there so I can use my passcode, but we'll go for that and see how it works. So I've gone ahead and got this out of here because there wasn't much in it, just the actual receiver itself. And when you look at it in isolation, you can just see how tiny that is. And it's got that little itty bitty antenna, that ceramic antenna there. Just crazy. It doesn't come with any wire, so you need to supply some bits there yourself. Anybody that's built a quad before should have oodles of wire kicking around, so that's not the much of a problem. It has got some clear heat shrink on it. You should just sort of notice that shining. So that just leaves these solder terminals exposed. Now, when I first looked at these, I thought, you know what, it doesn't even tell me what's what. But on closer inspection, and I'll see if I can show you if the camera's going to focus, you can hopefully just make out in the centre, it says RT5G, so receive, transmit, 5-volt ground. Of course, you can find schematics for this on their webpage and check it that way just to be sure. But yeah, obviously we have to be a little bit careful about soldering there because we don't want to burn the heat shrink. I would always prefer to have the heat shrink and do it myself, but this should be fine. So, in terms of what to put this in, I sort of looked in my cupboard for bits and pieces that I haven't flown in a while, because generally the stuff I have out is the stuff I like to fly more. So I thought I need to look at something that I wouldn't fly because it wasn't performing in the way I wanted it to. I found this old thing. This is the Eachine Red Devil. Reviewed it a while ago, and you know, it flies okay. These little toothpicks are all shaky but good fun to fly. This has one of those crazy bee F4 boards, which weirdly, normally as a reviewer I get all the stuff that breaks. Everybody else is saying their crazy bee boards broke. Mine never had a problem. That's got an SPI receiver on board, and this would drop down to like 30% RSSI, like really scarily low, within like less than 100 meters of myself. If I went behind me, it would lose signal. And this hasn't got much room, but there's a tiny bit of room just at the top of that. And I want to know, could I shove this in there? I want to know if a tiny internal receiver running ELRS, I say it's an internal receiver, it's an internal receiver because I'm going to put it inside, that's all. Will that outperform 2.4 SPI? I mean, it must do. I'm not expecting any great distance there, but I think this is a pretty good test about seeing these sort of things, which you've got to say must be intended for sort of whoops or toothpicks and stuff like that. How's it going to fly inside there? What sort of range are we going to get? So I think I've got the pins to do that in there. There's not many spare, but I think we've got one spare RX and TX is what we need, and we'll find ground and 5 volts somewhere. So let's hook this thing up. Let's see what we get.
Okay, that's my connections done with some really tricky bits of soldering, so I did check that all in multimeter before I went. You see that's flashing away now. Now on this little PP receiver it doesn't have inbuilt Wi-Fi, so I'm going to try and flash via Betaflight pass-through. What I've done is over on Betaflight configurator here, I've gone ahead and I've set up my UART2 as serial RX. I've gone and then changed from SPI receiver to CRSF, and I've added telemetry. So if we open up the ELRS configurator, we've got the PP via Betaflight pass-through, main device selection. It's going to be that, and yeah, let's see what happens. Let's try build and flash. Sync OK, it's doing upload. We're getting a rapid flash from the receiver. Says it's worked. Cool. Okay, this looks good. Popped the Namimno in this radio here. We've got a solid light, and if I move the sticks, you will see movement. So that's good. I'll fit that back inside, and then we can have a look at how this thing flies and what the range is like now.
And here is that receiver fitted in there, and hopefully you can just see just under there, that is the little ceramic antenna just sort of poking out, sort of just sitting on top, that you can see there. These are a right pain to work on. You've got to have like octopus hands to try and line everything up without bits dropping on the floor. This is going to be slightly untested. I had to update Betaflight. This was like the beta of like 4.00. So I put it on the latest 4.29 so I could take advantage of all the sort of inbuilt telemetry it would get from CRSF. I've done a quick hover in the garden. It doesn't look like it needs any tuning, so hopefully that will go okay.
Hello, here we are for testing. This is my first bit of flying since my knee surgery. I don't think I've flown anything for about 2 months. And I chose this spot, particularly so I could walk here in about 20 minutes and the knee's holding up okay. Secondly, it's because where I flew this before, and it's going to be a really easy check to see how RSSI works. I mean, it's got a long way of ground actually. If I put it down in there, there's no chance of me getting it back. Not with this knee. And it's a bit more overgrown down there, the trees have overgrown a bit more. So it'll be interesting to see how the signal holds out. Hopefully the VTX could as well. And I remember how bad it was flying behind myself, just not even to the end of that bit up there. So it'll be an interesting test. A couple of notes on the radio. I'm also using the TBS Mambo with the Namimno module. God, I hate that word. I did double check on the ELRS forums just to see if there was any gotchas on the Mambo, and they said using the current Freedom TX build is limited to 250 Hz. Interestingly, when I turned this on, it came up at 500 Hz, and even in the OSD it told me the LQ was 7100, which is 500 Hz, but it's not supported, so I've manually put that down to 250 Hz. So you should see the 6 as the power, and then hopefully the 100, not falling too far below, in the actual LQ part. Of course, I'm not intending to fly any great distance. I just want to see if we get, to the end of there, which you can't really see, out there somewhere, and back and basically replace an SPI receiver. So let's give it a whirl. I've only got a few batteries. The wind's up a little bit, which is not great on these little toothpicks, but let's see how it goes. Okay, we're off and flying, and my first impression was, oh my god, how bad is this camera? This is the old Caddx EOS 2, which is fine if you've got bright overhead light. As soon as that sun drops and it's shining in the camera, you get this awful darkness on the ground, which is just, I'm almost blind flying here. I'm just kind of feeling my way through, seeing if I can find the end. And I decided that's about the end, and what a relief to turn around, and I was lucky not to get taken out by that little branch. But the difference when you're going where the sun is sort of shining behind you rather than in front of you is such a difference. I mean, these cameras have been superseded by things much better, but people still put these crappy cameras out on some of these cheap builds. I'm going behind myself now, which was a real problem before, and once again we get the odd little drop to like 98 and then it jumps back to 100 on the LQ. So it's kind of like, yeah, I can't make a dent in this one, I can go all the way down and there's no problem. But to illustrate this, I just found some old footage of the original test of this one with the SPI receiver, which I'll show you here. So here we are in July 2019, and we've got much better conditions for the camera. But look at that RSSI, it's just dropping like a stone. I'm right there facing sideways on, trying to get the best position. But you can see I'm in the 30s, just going around this tree. I was worried about losing the signal. It's fair to say that SPI receivers do run a much lower RSSI than sort of a regular FreeSky receiver. A regular FreeSky receiver will start panicking below 40%, or below 40, it's not really a percentage. These things will go down to, you know, something like 20, but it's just so unpredictable about when they're going to lose the signal completely. I did not enjoy flying with that RSSI that low, it just freaked me out.
Well, two things to note there. Firstly, and flying that way, oh my god, was this camera useless? it was completely dark. I was flying into everything, but I just wanted to get to the end, see what would happen. And you see that the LQ maybe dropped to 99, 98 very slowly or very occasionally, but nothing happened. Behind me, not a problem, stayed at 100. I couldn't even see myself trying to land, and I feel very out of practice. I felt like a real beginner trying to fly this thing, but I've got another battery, so let's try flying above the trees a bit and just see if we can get a bit further. I hope that I'll be able to find my way back, because this is terrible. I think this is an EOS 2. It's not very good. Anyway, let's try again.
Right, off we go, let's try this out. I should explain, I've put the 3 levels of RSSI on the screen here. The top one is the LQ, and this is the one you really need to think about. 6 is your rate, this is 250 Hertz, and 100 is the link quality, so it's all going well. You'll notice here I start flying out and I've got seemingly a problem with the VTX. If I turn around, if you look at that thin little alleyway, that's where I am, and of course, because I'm close to those trees, that signal is being blocked, and as we go out above the tree line, the wind increases much more significantly, so I need to think about how I'm going to line myself up to try and correct to keep myself in line. Anyway, the second one down is the dBm range of RSSI, or your dBm signal, and for me, I don't understand it. Now, people will say, well, you want minus whatever, and that's a good signal. No, it doesn't work for me, so I'll probably get rid of that. Finally, you've got the actual RSSI indicator below that, which is completely useless as far as I'm concerned now. I mean, it's a really odd little rate, and this is it. It's in terms of crossfire or ELRS or anything like that.
Alright, so as we were taking a look at the new 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS parts from Happy Model. So they have a micro module and 3 different types of receivers for the 2.4 gigahertz system. So the Express LRS firmware obviously is open source. I did a video on the 900 megahertz system previously. I'll link that down in the video description. You guys can check that out. Basically, they have modified the hardware so that it will work for 2.4 gigahertz antennas, but I think the firmware is largely based on the same software. So you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but let me know down in the comments. As far as my understanding is, it's on the same base software, and then they branched it off into the 2.4 gigahertz and the 900 megahertz systems. And I think the hardware is a little bit different, but the chips and stuff, the actual receiver parts are really tiny on these new 2.4 gigahertz parts. So first, let me just show you what comes with the micro module. There's going to be a nano module at some point in the future. Don't know when that's going to come out. So get the module here. You get this 3D printed case for the module, so that obviously it's a JR Module B case. And then you get a looks like an IPEX connector for micro FL to looks like SMA, and then this is the antenna for the transmitter. Obviously shorter for 2.4 gigahertz, and it's an SMA antenna. And you get screws and some sticky pads to hold the board inside the module there, or inside the little case. But this is what the actual board looks like. This is where you connect the antenna. Some jumpers there. You got a micro USB port there. That doesn't look like that's going to be accessible. It's going to go in like this. and then it's going to get covered up with those screws. You put those 4 screws in there, and then obviously this will go into your radio. So whatever firmware updates occur, you'll have to take this cover off to be able to access that port to be able to make those changes. But looks like it's fairly straightforward. You just connect up the antenna like that, and then this will go in here. I was put the nut on the other side to hold it in place. Close it up, and then get your module going. But this is what it looks like. And nothing on the back side. Now, the receiver, or the receivers are super tiny. So there's 3 types. There's this one called PPRX over here. That's like the reference design that was actually originally designed by the Express LRS developers. And then they have the EP1RX and the EP2RX. And then these are designs from Happy Model. And my understanding is the main difference is in how the firmware is updated. So on the reference design, the PPRX, the firmware on here will get updated via Betaflight pass-through, so basically your flight controller. And then on the newer, or I guess the other alternative receivers from Happy Model, the Happy Model design, EP1, EP2, there's actually a different chip, a different MCU that actually has a Wi-Fi antenna on there, so that will basically allow you to update the firmware on the receivers via Wi-Fi.
TP.
I don't have any details yet on how to do that specifically. Some sticky pad to hold the port to be able to make those changes. Well, jumpers, board and screws, and it's a JR module. Receiver parts are really and then they and that, but largely modified receivers for the 2.4 gigahertz system. So the Express LRS firmware obviously is open source. I did a video on the 900 megahertz system previously. I'll link that down in the video description. You guys can check that out. Basically, they have modified the hardware so that it will work for 2.4 gigahertz antennas. But I think the firmware is largely based on the same software. So you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but let me know down in the comments. As far as my understanding is, it's the same base software, and then they've branched it off into the 2.4 gigahertz and the 900 megahertz systems. And I think the hardware is a little bit different, but the chips and stuff, the actual receiver parts are really tiny on these new 2.4 gigahertz parts. So first, let me just show you what comes with the micro module. There's going to be a nano module at some point in the future. Don't know when that's going to come out. So get the module here. You get this 3D printed case for the module, so that obviously it's a JR Module Bay case. And then you get a looks like an IPEX connector from microFL to looks like SMA, and then there's the antenna for the transmitter. It's the shorter for 2.4 gigahertz, and it's SMA antenna. And you get screws and some sticky pad to hold the board inside the module there, inside the little case. This is what the actual board looks like. This is where you connect the antenna. Some jumpers there. You got a micro USB port there. That doesn't look like that's going to be accessible. It's been going like this, and then it's going to get covered up with those screws. You put those 4 screws in there, and then obviously this will go into your radio. So whatever firmware updates occur, you'll have to take this cover off to be able to access that port to be able to make those changes. But looks like it's fairly straightforward. You just connect up the antenna like that, and then this will go in here. I was put the nut on the other side to hold it in place. Close it up, and then get your module going. But this is what it looks like. And nothing on the back side. Now, the receiver, or the receivers are super tiny. So there's 3 types. There's this one called PPRX over here. That's like the the reference design that was actually originally designed by the Express LRS developers. And then they have the EP1 RX and the EP2 RX. And then these are designed from Happy Model. And my understanding is the main difference is in how the firmware is updated. So in the reference design, the PPRX, the firmware on here will get updated via Betaflight pass-through, so basically through your flight controller. And then on the newer, or I guess the other alternative receivers from Happy Model, these are the Happy Model designs, EP1, EP2, there's actually a different chip, a different MCU that actually has a Wi-Fi antenna on there, so that will basically allow you to update the firmware on the receivers via Wi-Fi. I don't have any details yet on how to do that specifically, so I'm going to have a future video later to explain that because I didn't get a clear understanding of how that is done via Wi-Fi. Obviously, you have to connect to it probably through a smartphone app or something like that, I imagine. I wasn't too clear yet. Again, I'm going to link all of the stuff that I linked before in the other video, the 900 megahertz video, in terms of the GitHub and the wiki pages and all that. I'm probably going to have more up-to-date information down the road. This is more or less a preview. I haven't actually flown this or tested this yet, but it's going to take some time to get all this tested. But I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of this and that they are on pre-order now, and I think will be available in probably about a week after this video is out. But mainly I wanted to get the size of these things, just to scale this out there, because it's just amazing how tiny these are. So here's a standard Crossfire Nano receiver from TBS. Pretty standard. This is with the regular standard antenna, not the normal antenna. But here's the PP antenna. That's a reference design from Express LRS. And it's got this ceramic antenna on here, so there's no antenna connector. Obviously, there's going to be some debate about range or whatever. We'll see. I haven't done any range testing yet, but yeah, this is incredibly tiny. You just can't really depict how tiny these are. I'm afraid I'm going to lose them somewhere because they're so small. They literally look like about half the size of a Crossfire Nano receiver. And let's see how much this weighs. So, coming in at 0.42 grams. Now this one here is the EP2 design from Happy Model. Similar in size with the ceramic antenna, so there's no external antenna. And there is a small little Wi-Fi antenna array there in the corner you can barely see. Yeah, it's really hard to show. That is the antenna to connect to the chip to the firmware updates. But I think it's the same size as the PP2. So here's the PP receiver on the left, and this is the EP2 on the right. Let's see here. Yeah, they're about the same size. So this in terms of the transmitting or receiving chip is the same. It's just the MCU is different for the Wi-Fi functionality. So they're about the same size. And then let's just see. I thought it's part of the same length. 0.44. And then this one here. I'm gonna get these mixed up. This one here is the EP1 design with the, again, there's the Wi-Fi antenna. And this one has the micro FL connector, the IPX connector. I think it's IPX4. And then you get two types of antennas here. You have a 40mm antenna and a 90mm antenna that's included in the package. You can buy these separately if you break them or lose them. Those are also available. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit lighter because it doesn't have the ceramic antenna on there, but of course, you don't account for the weight of the antennas themselves. That'll actually increase the weight. So, 0.39, no antenna. And here's the 40mm antenna that will make the weight 0.81. And the 90mm antenna goes up to 0.96. So obviously, if you want to go for the lowest weight, you want one of the ones with the ceramic antenna. And obviously, it's not going to take up a lot of space, other than the fact that the antenna ceramic can just stick up a bit. So you do have to account for that, but you can definitely put this into some really small whoops or stuff like that. It weighs almost nothing, and you can get like massive amounts of range on something that's not going to have the flight time to fly that far. Basically, for anything that you're going to be putting this into that's really small and light, isn't going to have enough battery to fly to the limit of this receiver. I'm pretty sure about that. And you can put these into something bigger and possibly see what the maximum range is. But why would you want to put something with a minimalistic antenna like this into something that's much bigger when you can just put it, just go with a bigger antenna? I mean, the half a gram weight isn't going to cost you anything on a 7-inch, so it's kind of pointless to putting something like this on a 7-inch to see what the maximum range is. This is going to go into something more like a 3-inch or something smaller, and the flight time of those is going to be short to the point that you're not going to be able to run out of range of whatever this is. Pretty sure about that, but yeah, if you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments. If you have different findings, my understanding is the range on this is pretty similar.
신자归是的。大家好。恩惠娃娃，祝恩惠。我是丁世行。喂，万魔恩惠现在在我的手上。不好感觉。 우리 지금은 뮤비 촬영을 하러 왔습니다. 스시님과 저희 뮤비 촬영. 对，人生中第一次。对啊。스신 이거 받아본 적 있어? 헤어 메이크업? 있죠, 있는데 늘 마음에 안 들었는데 오늘은 좀 괜찮아. 마음에 들어? 난 다시 해야 돼. 내 앞머리가 축구 선수 같아. 우리 조디 라오빠도 메이크업을 맡고 있는데, 예. 조디 라오빠 눈 한쪽이 왜 짝짝입니까? 아직 여기를 안 했죠. 아, 어쩐지. 지금 김규리가 아니고 김구라입니다. 너무 궁금하죠? 우리가 왜 이런 화장, 이런 스타일과 이런 헤어스타일이 어떻게 이루어졌는지, 이게 무슨 뜻인지, 무슨 의미인지 난 너무 궁금해서 여쭤보고 싶은데. 老师，发跟化妆师有什么特色吗？我们的个人的 point， 化妆的 point 是什么？
第一个，我想要让他们有那种很可爱、很甜美的感觉。然后我想要让 Judy 在中间有那种比较眼神比较深邃、有杀气一点、有个性一点的感觉。
因为他是老板。
然后让他跟他们两个配在一起，就是有个性的，然后就是 cute。
우리 헤어스타일 물어봐. 머리는 무슨 어떤 의미가 담겨 있는지. 意思是什么？我头发的。我在吃饭呢。老师，所以我们也要吃饭。哟，你的花呗。지파이도 있어. 요 지파이. 别人的。
自信没有点边的。
你为什么没有？我不知道这家餐厅有지파이. 하지만 냄새는 맡을 수 있잖아. 不行. 냄새는 不行. 오. 等一下，我会请你我的个人的外籍频道。我们真的最近就被这种不行，真的就被这种。那前辈，你可以跟我说那个为了내 유튜브가 잘 되기 위해서，你可以给我一个 tip 吗？多少钱？我们1年的。多少钱？我要去自己老板。自己老板是 free。自己老板？ 유리 언니 75만 유튜버인데 뭐 거기로 가야지 뭐.
나랑 수영이는 1년 돼가지고 요즘 몸값 좀 비싸져가지고 덜 받을 때거든. 300달러 퉁쳐줄 수도 있어.
그치만 제가 어제 고기 구워줬잖아요. 화상 이거 하면서.
돈 내가 제일 많이 냈잖아. 돈값을 해야 될 거 아니야.
오늘도 고기 먹자 먹으러.
그래 그럼 내가 한번 출연해줄게.
채널에 오면 맛있는 음식을 공짜로 먹을 수 있어요.
헐 뭘?
저 고독한 미식가니까요. 꾸우도 믹스자.
왜 저랑 수영이는 그런 거 안 시켜줘?
저희 채널에 오시면 맛있는 음식을 잔뜩 먹을 수 있어요.
그래? 그러면은 너가 좀 그렇게 원하면 출연해줄게.
고민 좀 해볼게요.
그거를 왜 파는데?
비즈. 아이.搞坏感觉，或者是我推荐朱迪，第一个，第二个，好难。 OK， 两个图，而且，反正我觉得是真的是很好的经验，我们3个人一起这样，真的，几乎第一次吧，几乎第一次。我是怕老板太漂亮，所以他们就压力很大。감사합니다. 아 이게 뭐야? 내가 지금 감옥에서 나 무슨 불륜 저질러서 내보내주세요, 나가주세요 하는 그런 사진 같잖아요, 니콜님.
드디어
结束，结束了，
快手
我们刚刚拍摄结束了。
对呀，
你的设计是什么呀？
我是정말 감회가 새롭고요. 이렇게 뮤비 찍은 것도 처음이어가지고 뭐 티어는 아니지만
사진이지만
사진이지만
뮤비도 금방 찍어야 되니까.
셀레리와 저의 음반 우리가 아까랑 화장이 지금 좀 다르잖아. 옷도 그렇고 많이 달랐잖아.
맞아요.
우리 선생님들한테 물어보러가지고 오늘 우리 하루 어땠는지 든든든든시불러 오늘 저희와 함께 이렇게 촬영했는데 어떠셨는지 한번 여쭤보고 싶어서
觉得他们2个都很专业，然后也很快进入到，然后说话过程他们也都非常的敬业，就是很愿意尝试不同的造型，觉得他们很棒。
오예 우리 도빠라고 지금
我觉得蛮好玩的是，因为我们要突破以往啦啦队的形象，所以在头发上做了蛮多的变化。那他们也是给我们蛮多空间去发挥跟尝试的。然后我们就是一起沟通，一起讨论，然后去选出最适合的状态。然后我觉得工作下来觉得是舒服的，然后也有很多可能性。所以他们不会说就一定要这样，一定要那样，是我们会去一起去找出怎样子比较好看，所以其实是好玩的。
谢谢。
진짜 하루 종일 엄청 고생하셨거든요. 저희 머리 계속 만져주시고 촬영할 때마다 바꿔주시고 한
한장 찍고
화장판 덕분에 저희 오늘 하루 동안 진짜 너무 예뻤어요. 진짜 하루 종일 엄청 고생하셨거든요. 저희 머리 계속 만져주시고 촬영할 때마다 바꿔주시고
한장 찍고
화장판 덕분에 저희 오늘 하루 동안 진짜 너무 예뻤어요. 저희한테 만든 옷 하나하나 10벌씩 막 다 입어봤거든요. 저희 촬영할 때마다 옷 매무새 만져주시고 액세서리까지 해서 진짜 厉害，真的
他们两个原本是很甜美、很可爱的女生，但这次这个书跟推了是希望带出他们很酷的感觉。然后我觉得他们这次演绎的很好，好，很期待之后拍的视频。
하나하나 디테일을 다 신경 써서 저희 옷을 골라주신 거잖아요. 근데 그게 느껴졌어요. 찍으면서도 입으면서도 정말 감사합니다.
谢谢，谢谢。
우리 카메라 나우예 오예 수시 오예 아직 안 끝났지. 오늘 하루 어떠셨는지 저희가 어땠는지 여쭤보고 싶어요. 말마 好。
1、2、3，好。第一次跟韩国人合作，蛮特别的。然后拍起来也都非常的配合，然后也很有个性。对，所以我觉得合作的很愉快，拍摄也很顺利。对，所以谢谢。
하루 종일 진짜 최고의 사진을 담아주셨어요.
这张片中都很辛苦了，谢谢。
你们表现得很棒，对，对，
엄마 멋지다.
你们很棒。
谢谢。
无
色旗。
好.
你们都很辛苦。
저희가 처음 이제 뮤직비디오 앨범 촬영을 하게 됐는데 저희 처음 뮤직비디오까지 함께 하고 있잖아요. 그래서 저희 뭐 진보나 아니면 오늘 하루 어땠는지 여쭤보고 싶어가지고.
我觉得他们今天有完全把那个歌词跟我要表达的那个性格都有表现出来。我很喜欢，而且两个都很努力，非常棒。
那谢谢。
非常。
또 제 칭찬 하나만 해주시면 싸너리.
郭春燕非常可爱，然后很快的就可以抓住镜头。这个呢，这个活蹦乱跳，对不对？活蹦乱跳，然后跳完之后，也很快的可以把它妩媚的一面、性感的一面表现出来。
우리가 다음 주에 이제 뮤직비디오를 드디어 찍잖아요. 근데 그 뮤직비디오의 기획이 되게 어떻게 되는지 한번 설명 한번 부탁드리면 어떨까?
MV 跟今天的平面拍摄，大家一起计划一起去构想。那当然，其实在 MV 上面更把他们的感觉表现得淋漓尽致，大家可以期待。
谢谢. 태우랑 나 끌어줘.
애기야 가자.
엄마.
애기야 가자.
엄마.
애기.
엄마 첫 주세요.
애기 젖도 안 좋은데 살이 쪘니? 애기.
아 근데 어때? 앨범 이제 막 이제 진짜 촬영까지 하니까.
아니야. 근데 저는 춤 연습까지 이제 시작을 해야 좀 더 실감이 날 것 같아.
세별이가 춤은 치어리더를 했으니까 많이 춰봤지만 막 노래를 내고 음반을 내고 이런 거는 경험이 없을 거 아니야.
맞아요.
그건 어때? 그 긴장되고 그러잖아?
일단 저는 노래가 제일 걱정이었는데 또 이게 춤이 치어리더는 뭐 운동화 신고 하잖아요.
맞지.
근데 이 춤은 이제 좀 구두를 신고 춰야 되잖아요.
와.
그게 되게 걱정이거든요 지금.
이게 얇은 구두 신으면 더 힘든 거야.
맞아요.
연습 진짜 많이 한단 말이야.
떠니는 이제 구두 신고 추는 거 익숙해져 있을 텐데 저는 그게 아니니까 저 걷지도 못하거든요 사실. 그게 너무 걱정이에요 지금.
나는 너무 무서워. 난 노래를 많이 불러봤지 무대에서 춤도 많이 춰보고 했지만 이렇게 음반을 내는 거는 진짜 처음이란 말이야. 남의 노래를 불러봤지 내 노래를 부른 적 없잖아.
내 노래.
그래서 이거 잘 될까 잘 안 될까 우리가 막 노래 부르다가 픽사기 나지 막 안 될까
나가면 이게 내 잘못인데 이거.
벌써 막 저기까지 막 다 생각했다고 지금. 너무 긴장되고 막상 이렇게 촬영까지 하니까 조금 더 와닿는 것 같아. 근데 이제 촬영까지 하니까 뭔가 갑자기 확 이러네.
근데 촬영을 도와준 모든 사람들이 이제 생각날 거 아니에요.
그리고 노래 진짜 좋잖아.
맞아요. 노래 정말 잘 만들어졌고.
한번 불러줘. 시작.
비밀이에요.
티저 이런 거 있잖아. 원래 노래에도 티저 있잖아.
티저 저쪽으로
그러면 그걸로만 해줘. 그 숨소리로만. 우리가 이런 노래였나?
약간 섹시한.
우리 노래가 이런 노래였다. 근데 내가 표현해볼게. 우리 노래 한마디.
네. 跟我欧回吧，就是跟我欧回吧。
对啊. 뭔지 알겠지?
Alright guys, so we've got a bunch of new stuff here from Beta FPV. Mainly it's going to be the new Express LRS parts. I'm going to go over all those. First I wanted to show you this new 6-port bonus charger. So this will come as just the charger itself like you see here. And you can also get it with the wall adapter. So the kit that I have here has the wall adapter. And it's USB-C to USB-C, and includes a cable. And it charges up to 6 of the BT 2.0 batteries and also PH 2.0 batteries. And you can choose 4.2 or 4.35 volts. So it's pretty cool. It does a quick charge, power delivery 3.0, QC 3.0, all the fast USB charging speeds. So it'll charge up these 1S batteries pretty quickly, and it'll do all 6 at the same time. I'll have a review out on this guy here pretty soon. The HX115SE has the new all-in-one flight controller board, which is this one here. We'll talk about that here momentarily, but this is what it looks like. It's 1S. I'll have a video on this one later. So the Express LRS parts are, you get 2 nano modules, and so they come with either the 2.4 gigahertz one here, or you can get the 900 megahertz one. And I believe it'll do 900 megahertz, or you can get a version that's for the EU, it's 868 megahertz. So I got, of course, the 900 megahertz version for the FCC region, but this is what this looks like. And obviously it's for the nano modules. So it basically says here in the manual that it supports most of the normal transmitters. So here it's saying here X-Lite, Taranis X9D Lite, TVS Tango 2. But you can see here that the Jumper T-Lite is not supported. It's because obviously of the power issues. These modules draw too much power. And I've done a video on this already on why there's a flaw in this radio in terms of all that. I have actually several videos on this one already. You can go back on my channel and read up on that or watch those if you want to know why the reasons these nano modules don't work properly in here. You can do a power mod, which is what I did in this one here, and once you do that, then these modules do work, and I've actually been flying the Crossfire Nano module, no problem, for the last 3 months, 3-4 months, and I have put this in here, and it works. I have bound it to the all-in-one flight controller board here, and I can see it's working. Now let's start with this one first. So this is the all-in-one flight controller board. That's what it looks like. USB-C. I think this is 1S only, up to 12 amps, and bursting to 25. So pretty huge in terms of the power capabilities. Comes with this antenna because this one here is the version with the Express LRS receiver. So you just put that on there. Obviously, this is no video transmitter built into this one, just the Express LRS receiver. So they currently have this and the 2.4 gigahertz Express LRS receiver, and another version that has the FreeSky SPI receiver, which is the one that it comes on the HX115SC. As you can see the USB-C port there. That's what this board is. Well, the board that's in here is the FreeSky receiver SPI version in that one. But this one here is the one with the Express LRS receiver. The 900 megahertz version of this is not out yet. I think they're going to make it, but I'm not 100% sure. They do have 900 megahertz receivers standalone, of course. So here, just show you the board. This is the underside. Sorry, it's 1 to 2S, F4, 12 amps. Okay, and then this is the 900 megahertz or 915 megahertz nano module. So they come with these, obviously this is like a Moxon antenna, I believe. So this one's tuned 915 megahertz and this one is 2.4 gigahertz. So there's interesting is like they have connector here, SMA, to the nano module, and then this one here has a MMCX to this antenna, and this one has SMA as a test. So it's got dual connectors. I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good thing or not. You guys can let me know down in the comments what you think. I'm sure it's probably losing additional signal from that. So these are the receivers. So you get a 2.4 gigahertz receiver and a 900 megahertz receiver. So they basically are the same size as a Crossfire Nano receiver. They are not as small as the ones from Happy Model and not as light, of course. They do work in the same way. It has the built-in Wi-Fi chips, so it has the more available chipset, so you can update and connect to it via Wi-Fi. And it obviously works the same as a Crossfire receiver, just like the Happy Model receivers. All that is the same in terms of like how to bind it. Basically, you power it on, power it off, power it on, power it off, do it 3 times, and then you get a flashing double pulsing light on the receiver. That means that it is in binding mode, and then you go into your radio using the Express LRS Lua script and go into the binding option to activate it, and then it will bind. So it works the same way as the Happy Model system. However, I have not been able to get these modules to bind with any of the Happy Model receivers. They will bind with the beta FPV stuff. So the beta FPV stuff binds with this stuff here. So I think what they've done is they've compiled the firmware with certain options that obviously they all work together in the beta FPV system, but the Happy Model receivers might have been compiled with them differently. So I was thinking, well, I'll just flash these receivers with new firmware with the options that I can set myself. However, in Express LRS Configurator, these parts don't exist yet. So I'm not sure why that is. I haven't got an straight answer about that yet. I'm assuming that they will be added at some point because it's all the same hardware, so I don't see why it couldn't be put in there. Now, I've considered maybe flashing the Happy Model firmware to these receivers, but I'm like, I don't want to brick it, so I'm going to wait and see. Now, of course, all the beta FPV stuff works with each other, so I can test it, no problem there. It's just that I was hoping that I could just bind it with the Happy Model receivers, and that isn't the case. Obviously, this Express LRS stuff is still in beta phase, in my opinion, and have these like sort of firmware mismatching sort of issues, and I think that's where the binding problem is. I just can't get it to bind because everything has to match. You have to have matching firmware on the radio. It's got to have Crossfire shot. It's got to have like all these things. You have to have the correct options selected in Express LRS Configurator. So there's a lot of variables and a lot of things that could potentially go wrong, which is why I haven't made that video yet, because I know there's a few people that have made videos on how to do all this stuff, but it's still kind of, I don't know, in my opinion, not super elegant. Kind of waiting for things to get kind of cleaned up a little bit. I think it is getting better, but for example, like the fact that these parts aren't in Express LRS Configurator yet is kind of worrisome. I'm kind of hoping that I'm a little worried that maybe it won't get supported, but I'm pretty sure it will. I mean, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. But there was no mention of the GitHub stuff in the manuals. So usually they'll tell you, okay, if you want to do updates, go to GitHub and you can do the firmware updates there. But there's no mention of that in the printed manuals. Of course, there might be updates in PDF files you can get on the website. Again, this is questions I have for beta FPV that I haven't gotten an answer for yet. I'm waiting to hear back from them. So I will leave something in the video description here with that information when I get it. So if you want to check back later. For now, this stuff is available for sale as far as I know. You can buy all the stuff that I know works together. So if you just want to live within the Beta FPV ecosystem and you don't care about updating firmware, you can just buy it and it should just work out of the box. And if you do the binding procedure, and obviously you have to have a supported radio, and you have to have a supported firmware on your radio as well in terms of OpenTX. So that's a whole other thing. Go to the ExpressLRS wiki page, and there's also help there in terms of like what you need in terms of your radio. Again, you know, it's still a work in progress in my opinion. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll have obviously another video for the HX115 SC later, and also I'm going to be doing some testing with this and be putting this into something else, and maybe doing some limited range testing, nothing too attention attracting, but I'll have that at some point pretty soon. That's it for now. Talk to you guys in the next video.
就一起了，是不是他们都拉肚子没有来？差不多，那时候人比较少，还有可可，我是跟他相见的时候，那时候你是赢他的，那你也太烂了吧？那你可以去跟别人炫耀，我赢过可可。那你就不能乱讲，下次要电爆我。现在是赛道解说。我们起飞是在一张桌子，然后起飞之后第一圈一起飞就马上经过那个这个绳子。起点在这里，起点出去之后绕过这边，然后就这样绕一大圈，回来再绕一大圈，回来，然后最后在那边结束。这边有一个计时器，你只要经过你的计时器就会开始，就可以计算你的时间。练习赛第一组，然后各位可以看一下，我是第5组，太近了，太近了，太近了。对，我们练习赛就是手稳就好了。我们先熟悉一下赛道，选手自机，红旗，加油啊！我们来看一下导播这边，4台机子，每台机子都有一个人在监看，以防他作弊、乱跑、偷跑之类的。不要换我们的练习赛，熟悉赛道，好不好？
我觉得这些频道的观众比较想要看你抽奖
啊，
上一次抽一张。
不行啊！幸运小飞机。飞很爽哎，很爽！我觉得小机比赛真的超好玩，因为小场地啊，然后它撞了又可以翻过来，超好玩。不过我没有。 你有飞完再吗？我一开始以为哇塞。
摄影师又在乱来了，我还偷录女生。哎，那个是刚才飞得很厉害的那个飞手表演的，可以访问一下你吗？请问一下，你刚飞的是哪一台飞机啊？这么厉害？
这个碰 FPV 音速的飞机，
感觉很帅。
没错。
好，这边小小宣传一下，其实他们有赞助了一台飞机，到时候会出他们飞机影片。他们飞机做的真的很有质感，而且超级耐炸的，很适合新手入坑。来录一下我们摄影师，他现在很无聊，因为我们现在就在等练习赛结束。
所以那是还不是正式比赛？
还没正式比赛，专业飞手要上场了。现在是预赛开始，预赛的第一轮。其实现在就是在比预赛，然后预赛会比2场，2场完之后下午会淘汰赛。其实每个人都可以对到淘汰赛，就是你预赛完之后呢，会照排名重新分组，然后分组好之后再进淘汰赛，所以每个人都一定飞得到4场左右吧。刚刚那个可可，他38秒完成，38秒完成，对啊，2038秒了，
对，2038秒，
好猛！
来，可可亮点。
石美怎么那么猛啊？2038秒，
运气好，
运气好，就是运气。问一下各位徐妈妈，刚才那位可可38秒哎，怎么那么猛啊？
对啊，他以前是什么咖啊？不知道为什么。
这1年来冒出来的。
对啊，好讨厌哦！以前我们根本就不知道他是谁哎。
现在是午休时间，就是给我们吃东西啦，然后也可以到处乱飞一下，但是不能飞赛道。所以我们现在要用这台涵豆机来拍一下环境，读一下画面。这台是化骨龙的，就我之前介绍过的，这台真的超级好飞了，它轻到都可以做一些动作，真的超夸张的。告诉一下，现在大家是什么时间？
现在是下午的1点44分。
所以要准备进行一种比赛。
淘汰赛。
对。
小黄袍会不会在这边淘汰呢？他被淘汰的话，抽一台无人机。
支持啊！现在先进行学生。
好的，今天来介绍一下玩小4轴小飞机，穿越机所需要准备的东西，还有怎么样开始玩。只是简单的介绍一下。因为这个领域还是有它的一些常识需要，大家自己去上网络学习。那首先呢，在玩这种小4轴的飞机，那它有分成2种方式在市面上买。那一种是买这种叫做 BNF Ban and Fly Ban and Fly BNF。那这种你买这种飞机的话，它是买一盒就是单纯只是飞机而已，它里面什么都没有，只有飞机。那这个什么意思呢 ？BNF 飞机是什么意思呢？就是说，你必须要有自己的遥控器。那基本上飞这种小4轴飞机就是飞机、遥控器、图传。那图传有这种小萤幕，也有飞行眼镜，那就是看预算。那一般来讲，这种小萤幕只要大概2000多块左右就可以买到。那也比较适合就是戴眼镜他觉得会晕的人。那眼镜的话，大概从比较普通一点的4000块开始，3、4千块开始，一直到上万的那个飞鲨比赛用的飞鲨眼镜都有。就是看个人的选择。所以玩这种小飞机的话，他们叫小4轴穿越机。那就是准备这个3个东西：自己的遥控器、BNF 飞机跟荧幕或者眼镜。那当然就是刚开始接触 小飞机的朋友来说，它最快入门的方式也可以买这种所谓的 RTF 套机，就是 Ready to Fly RTF 的套机。那什么叫RTF 的套机呢？就是它是一整套的。那除了荧幕跟眼镜没有以外，它里面有包含遥控器跟飞机。你可以看这种套机来看的话，就是飞机遥控器，而且
be the project. I'll never find it again because it's on Facebook and I don't know, you know. But this is a thing that has existed, but I get the impression that there's a new open source project that makes it way easier. Anyway, and I have mixed feelings about that. We got a $20 super chat from Ginger Sasquatch. 50 hours of sim time deep. I have goggles, a Sugan T21, a whoop, and parts for a 3.5-inch InBone. I can't overstate how helpful your videos have been getting into the hobby. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad they've been helpful. The Ron Johnson says, I built your 3-inch drone kit as my first drone with Walksnail. What should I look for when trying to maximize range and penetration? What settings should I use? Turn the output power on the video transmitter up to max. And then some people feel like they get better range at 25 megabits per second compared to 50. It's lower video fidelity, but better range. Overlord. I picked your question just because I saw you're in the Discord, Overlord, and I appreciate you being a patron. What are your latest tricks to protect my antenna? The O3 antenna and the 3D print seem to break easily on your sub 250 build. Are you printing them out of TPU or are you printing them out of PLA? I'm going to be really surprised if you're printing them out of TPU and they're breaking. TPU tends to flex and not break. So print it out of TPU. And then if you want more durability, you can get an antenna for the O3 that's just a little whip antenna, and it's more durable than the plastic one. So you could just replace the antenna with the little whip antennas. Let me show you an example. So if we look at the Beta FPV Pavo Pico, no, I need the one that comes with the VTX. Can I see a picture of it? There we go. So if you look right here, do you see that they've replaced the antennas with just these little whips? They're far more durable. And the reduction in range is actually not as much as you would think. So that's how you can increase the durability of those antennas if you really want to. Did I switch the scene and show you guys the Pavo Pico? And then I switched the scene back subconsciously? Because at this moment, I don't remember switching the scene. And I wonder if I just looked at the Pavo Pico and you guys didn't see it. I did, okay. I see, this frickin' Stream Deck is like frickin', it's like subconscious for me these days. David Molinatoro says, I'm developing my own flight controller and I'm wondering if using a Raspberry Pi instead of the typical STM32 is the right way. After seeing Betaflight plans to support the Raspberry platform, I couldn't speak to the pros and cons of the different platforms. Presumably the Raspberry Pi will have more processing power, and generally when people put a Raspberry Pi on a drone, it's because they want to do things like image processing. I knew a person, well, I didn't like know him, but I knew of a person who was developing an image processing, basically companion computer using Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi is not very sophisticated, like it's not going to do like high-end AI stuff, but like it can do basic stuff, and it can do stuff like tracking an object, like that's well within his capabilities, like identifying objects on screen. You know, so a lot of times when people put a Raspberry Pi, that's what they want to do. The other thing a Raspberry Pi offers is much more sophisticated networking capability. So if you wanted to have like more sophisticated, like again, running a drone over the internet, you might have a Raspberry Pi, as integrated into that to help with routing traffic, or it wouldn't literally be doing the routing, but I've known people who put a Raspberry Pi on a drone to do something like that. Yeah.
Just to be clear, I think he's talking about designing an FC and using the RP2350 as the chip, the MCU, instead of an STM32F7 or F4.
Well, right, but presumably that would give access to some of the capabilities of a Raspberry Pi, right?
I think a lot of the benefit that you get is like that you're getting the whole board with it and all the stuff that's included on it. But what I would say is, what I told him is go to the Betaflight Discord and ask the devs what they think about it. Because, like, for instance, like something like STM32 has a bunch of peripherals in the code. And when you need to do things with chip, you can call the peripherals, and there's like a peripheral library that you can use. When you change processors, you have to change the peripheral library. And so it depends on how built up that is and how familiar you are with it and how familiar the devs are with it and who's designing the firmware for it. It's also like important to know. So just something to consider, because I think that's a big issue that comes up with MCUs is you have to work off of this I think it just got introduced in September 2025, I think when I looked, was when they added this MCU to Betaflight. So I'm not sure how supported it is.
So I was surprised to hear that Betaflight was adding support for a Raspberry and for MCU. Betaflight was like pulling teeth to get them to support the AT32, which is just kind of like a clone of the ST32, although they did, I think, have to write some drivers and stuff for it. So like I'm surprised that they've stuck to that STM32 for a long time. I'm hearing from David Moltor that it's a little bit more powerful than the M4 chip on an F405, which, so what's the point? What's the point then? If it's not that much more powerful, it's just a different chip. The devs said they want to use all cores and split the load. Raspberry, it's a multi-core chip, so they could like have the PID controller running on one core and peripherals running on another core, for example. It doesn't have serial I/O. Sounds like there's pros and cons. Well, I'm well out of my depth, so I guess I don't know. You should ask the devs. I think Blunty gave you good advice. Maybe you'll be the one who helps integrate it into the code. Bennett FPV says, it's official, you've left Rotor Riot. I noticed you weren't on the website anymore. Yeah, I guess I can address that. I never officially left Rotor Riot. For a couple reasons. It's been, I don't know, it has to have been 2 or 3 years since I was last in a Rotor Riot video. I'm trying to think what the last one that I am sure, for example, one of the last ones I definitely remember doing is 10 FPV trends that died.
Drew, you're gonna...
This was 5 years ago. I'm sure I must have done one since then. Let's see what happens if I go to the Rotor Riot. What have they been up to? How drone motors are made. Rampage 2025. Rampage 2025. Another exploding battery video. Do one of these every few years. The Kai Cenat video. Okay. 5 months ago. Yeah. so I wonder, sorry, just if I search for Bardwell 6 years ago, 7 years ago, how do I sort by 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, wow, 2 years ago, okay, there we go, 2 years ago. No, that's my problem. I do remember this one. This, yes, okay, so I knew I'd find one more recent. April 2023, so almost 3 years ago. So, yeah, that's about right. It's been 2 or 3 years since I was out there, and I never really, was like, I'm done with that. I just got busy with other things, and when they would be like, hey, we're going to shoot, just it seemed like the answer was always, I got something else that week, or just like, nah, you know. So, and I always was like, oh, well, I'm friends with them. I still consider them friends, you know, although I'm not as connected with the sort of new generation that came in after I was on the way out, so I haven't spent as much time hanging out with them. I went to Rampage. I went to Rampage 2 years ago for sure, and I must have been in videos then. I did that video with anyway, it doesn't matter. But recently I went to them and I said, hey guys, it's been a long time. I think it's time that, like, I'm not going to make a big announcement why I left Rotor Riot, because that's not how it is. But I think it's time wasn't, like, I'm not really a cast member in any sense. Yeah, the stage dive. What year was that? What year was the stage dive, Joseph Jahari? Anyway, so a few months ago I said, hey, what do you want to do? You'd probably take me off the website. Especially because of some of the, and I'm going to be careful with my wording here, like some of the publicity Rotor Riot has been getting for some of the things that Unusual Machines and Rotor Riot has been doing in the military space. And I want to be careful with my words because I don't want to give the impression that I'm like categorically opposed to that. I'm not. I know that some people are. They think it's bad for the hobby. They think, you know, they're like, how dare they? And it's like, yeah, I know people who are purist hobbyists who are like, anybody who commercializes the hobby or anybody who uses drones as weapons is not my friend. And I understand that position. I know people who are in the military who are like, I love drones, I like racing drones. Why wouldn't I also use drones for my day job? And I have seen the effect that drones have in Ukraine and other places around the world. And, you know, if you believe that service members should have the ability to protect themselves, then they should have the tools that allow them to do that effectively. You know? So, like, I feel like there's a lot of different sides to it, is my point. But if somebody who has my name on their website is doing things that generate a huge amount of bad publicity, like, I want to generate my own bad publicity. See what I'm saying? I'm not opposed to doing. Anyway. So, I guess my point is that as long, you know, I hadn't been in a Rotor Riot video in a long time, but I had kind of just like, yeah, keep my name on your website, whatever, I don't care. But that had kind of petered out. And now they're doing things that are generating bad publicity, bad press, and blowback. And then people are saying, Bardwell needs to this, Bardwell that. And I'm like, guys, I have nothing to do with this. They're just doing their thing over there. And I was like, well, okay. If I'm going to, you know, I'm going to do my thing. I'll do something that will piss you off, and then you'll be mad at me. But at least I will have presumably reaped some benefit from it. See what I mean? All right. That's a tough one, Siati. Siati, I mean, I don't know how deep down this. Let's get into the end of the night, whatever. There's a big difference, and I try really hard to keep this a mostly politics-free zone. So I'm not going to use your exact wording, but like, you think about somebody who joined the military 10 years ago, right? And then, as a part of signing up for the military, you understand that sometimes you'll agree with some of the things the administration does, sometimes you won't. And you bought the ticket, take the ride. You have to make the best of it. You look at a company like Rotor Riot, who started working, Rotor Riot, Red Cat, Unusual Machines, they started working toward government contracts, presumably with good intentions, although also with the intention of making money. You know, they've invested in it, right? And then a new administration comes in, and maybe like Siadi, I know you don't, you're heartily opposed. I had somebody reach out to me, Siadi, he was on my Patreon, and he said, I unsubbed from Siadi's Patreon because I don't like his political views and I don't like how he talks on live stream. And I'm glad you don't do that. And I went, mm-hmm. And I will continue to not do that. But like, you know, maybe you agree, maybe you don't. But like, if you spent 5 years building a company, investing money, you bought a factory, you bought a warehouse, and your intention was to, you know, whatever, sell drones to the government, then the government comes in and suddenly you're like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't think that's an easy decision to make. I certainly have a lot of respect for people who say, I'm not okay with this, I'm out. Like, that's a bold and brave decision, especially when it comes with personal cost. But I also, like, there's people who say, I'm going to try to make the best of this situation. And then there's people who say, I'm going to get rich and I don't give a fuck who I sell to. And, you know, fuck those people. Anyway, I guess it's complicated. It's complicated. It's easy for somebody whose livelihood doesn't depend on selling products to the military or the government to say to someone whose livelihood does depend on that, hey, you should stop doing that. What? Oh, great. So now I'm homeless. Well, maybe that's okay. I don't know. It's not that simple. Obviously.
I mean, that's a real, like, they deserve to get into the industry.
So that's fair. And like I said, you know when you sign up that there's a chance that you might be put in a position where you're asked to do something that you don't agree with by someone who has power over you, and then you have to be prepared with the sort of ethical, moral fallout of that. I think it's what you're saying. Sorry, Plenty, I cut you off.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just say like, oh, I was doing it and now you don't like it and I can't stop. Like, you decided to get into it. You developed the company. You developed the skill set. Like, all those things happen. Like, you made the decisions you made. Like, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to carry too much water for Rotor Riot, Unusual Machines, etc. They can certainly speak for themselves. But I guess the reason I say that is like, I know FPV hobbyists who are absolutely opposed to any sort of commercialization, militarization, whatever, of drones. And I know FPV hobbyists who are not so much on the sort of peace and love side of the equation, and who I don't know, who see it a little, they feel stuck. I think some of them feel stuck. And I feel for it. I feel for them. Anyway. But you're right. It's a cop-out to say, well, if I don't keep, you know, I'm not going to make up a horrible example. If I don't keep doing this morally repugnant, my livelihood depends on me doing this morally repugnant thing, so I guess I have to keep doing it. No. Like, you can stop doing it. You can make other decisions. Yeah, that's valid. That's valid. I don't know. I'm like, what do you do? I think this is a real question. Now, it's not a question we're going to answer on this live stream, but it's like, what do people in the military do? Because this is not a new thing. Like, you signed up for the military. The president is someone you politically agree with, and he says, we're going to go and we're going to help the poor people of such and such a country by bringing them food and water. Oh, I like that. I'm going to go do that. And then there's an election, and now we have a new president. The president says, we're going to go over to this country and we're going to drop a lot of bombs on people. And you're like, oh, I don't like that. What do you do? You just speak. I mean, some people in Vietnam were conscientious objectors. Some of them went to like prison, didn't they? I don't know. Oof. How do you address this? The people who are currently on active duty are not going to say. They're not certainly not going to say publicly. Yeah. I mean, it could go the other way. You could be a person who signed up, and the president was like, "Let's go bomb people," and you were like, "Yes, I want to bomb people." And then a different president got elected, and he was like, "Today we're going to stop bombing people," and you were like, "Oh, I don't like this guy." It could go both ways. I don't know. If the answer is, as Doompaint says, you shut up and do what you're told, I don't know if I want to live in that world. Like, I want to live in a world where people have sort of moral code, but then I think it gets very messy. Because like it's yeah, I think it gets messy. Anyway, that's a topic. I think I could say more on that topic, but I think I won't, because I think well, we're number one, running out of time, and number two, I just think it's not the right topic to get into right now. I wouldn't want to, Siani, I wouldn't want to lose any patrons by expressing too many political views here on my stream. Okay. Oh, gracious. Excuse me. Got the hiccups today. Thank you guys. I'm only vaguely scanning the chat, but it does seem like the chat has not descended into political BS and is mostly like people are talking about the topic in mostly sort of respectful and intelligent ways. And I'm happy. I'm happy about that. Blunty, maybe I don't see a lot of hidden comments, so I'm gonna guess. Yeah, I'm gonna guess you guys did a good job. So.
I mean, at some point when you start talking about it, there's nothing I can do. That's what I think about it.
I know.
You're gonna stop when you want to stop, and otherwise I'll just let it go until until you stop.
But I don't see a lot of the kind of comments that would upset me.
There's people insulting each other. It's happened multiple times, but I'm not gonna. It's just. I don't know. You invited it, so there's nothing. I feel like it's weird to police it. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I would police some of it. If anybody said something I disagreed with politically, I would ban them from the channel. I'm joking. Anyway, all right. Let's see here. I don't like any of these questions. Shout out to EDOC for placing second in Pro Class at Whooptopia this weekend. Yes! EDOC. Shout out to EDOC. Is there a reason making your own DJI-esque drones with optical flow modules, Caddis gimbal, etc. isn't more mainstream? Two reasons, Simmerjack. Number one, it's hard and complicated. It's way harder than you think to get it actually working. I say this as somebody who has spent, today I was struggling with a drone, trying to get the compass to work right, to get position hold working. Just position hold. Good old position hold. And the compass was screwing up, and I had all kinds of problems. And it's like, it's just position hold. DJI RG Pilot can do this. It was an iNav drone. RG Pilot can do this all day. Why is this not working? F you. So like when you set out to do a DJI-esque drone, you say, oh, DJI-esque drone with optical flow and gimbal. You're like, good luck. You're gonna spend weeks working on this stupid thing, and when you get it done, it's still not gonna be as good as a DJI drone. So part of the reason is that it's hard, and your result is not good. So yeah, that's you should just believe. If you want a DJI drone, just buy a DJI drone. You are not going to make anything better. You are not going to save money. The only reason to try to make your own is if you want the challenge. So. Oh my goodness. Oh. Belur, if you were at minus 100 dBm at 200 meters, the first thing I would do is I would check your antennas aren't damaged. Yeah. Sunshine, I am intrigued by Meshtastic. Somebody showed me a piece of software where basically if you take a Meshtastic radio, it's a little Meshtastic like puck, and it has a GPS unit on it, or you can connect it to your phone. And basically, you would like put a drone up in the air with a radio on it, and then it would network all the Meshtastic radios so that like over like, you know, I don't know where you would do this, like a camping event, I don't know, out in the woods, you could see where everybody was, like on a tablet, using these pucks. It's very, very, very interesting little technology. It may not even have been Meshtastic, but I think it was. Yeah. The reason we were talking about it is that we were talking about ways to recover your drone if you lose your drone. And one of the things he was like, well, maybe you could put one of these pucks on it and use this as a supplemental radio for passing location data. Oh, maybe this. Maybe it was this. Card tracker for Meshtastic. That sure sounds like it. It's a high-performance tracker, small as a credit card, LR1110. GPS module, high precision, low power positioning, $40. There you go. Yeah. And basically, you could see on a map where each of all the people were, all the devices, all the drones. You could just see it on a map. It was pretty cool. It's not an AirTag killer at this size. Like, nice try. Slick. Are my specs good? Emax Eco 2 1300 kV. What size props for 1300 kV? Better be 7-inch. DJI O4 Air Unit Gepper C Mark IV 7-inch. Yes! M100 Pro HLRC GPS SpeedyB F405 stack. Yeah. I think that 3500 6S, it's okay. That's okay. You're probably going to want a bigger battery. If you have 1300 kV motors, you're probably going for flight time. You're probably going to want a bigger battery. And then I'm not 100% sure I would trust the SpeedyB ESC on a 7-inch build. It'll probably be fine, but Pacific Source says there's a new iNav update out for compass issues. Take a look. Pacific Source, I will kiss you on the mouth. Are you for real? I will kiss you on the mouth. iNav 901. Fixed position of for improved GPS hold, navigation, and accuracy. Shut your god. Is that it? Yeah. Nah, that doesn't sound like any of the other problems. No, those aren't the problems I was having. I think no, I don't want to see that. I don't think that's exactly the problems I was having. That's pretty, ew, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, delete. Pacific Source, I don't know if that's what you were talking about, but. Race FPV says, I thought all DJI drones were banned, but I see tons of them on Amazon. No. DJI is on the covered entities list, which means new DJI drones cannot get FCC approval. Existing drones that already have FCC approval are fine and can still be sold. Daewoo, thank you for a $10 super chat. I have a TVS Unify Pro 32 and a TVS Unify Pro HV. One has an internal mic, and the other you have to wire up an AGC mic. Is the Pro 32's mic the same mic, only internal? I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I don't think the Unify Pro's mic has AGC though, automatic gain control. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. I would generally prefer to get a VTX with a built-in mic, just because wiring up an external mic is a pain in the butt. I'm looking for the loudest mic for live audio. No, you don't want the loudest mic, because you want the mic to turn its gain down because the wind is so damn loud. I recently bought the G2 goggles. Now I have a question. Should I buy the G4 later, or could I live with the Vista 03 and 04 lineup? The G4 don't exist. The G4 don't exist. How can I tell you whether you should buy the G4 when they don't exist yet?
I said the same thing to him in chat. He said he meant G3.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm not crazy though. No, if you own the G2 and you're happy with the G2, you just bought the G2, don't buy the G3. If you wanted the G3, you should have bought them instead of the G2. Now you have the G2. I'm not sure I could, you definitely can't justify immediately reselling them or buying another set of goggles. The correct answer is, hey dummy, you should have bought the G3 in the first place. Vista 03, 04, like you get all of the same video transmitters with the G2 and the G4. In fact, or the G3. In fact, you also get the Vista. The only things you don't get are race mode and 60 megabit per second, which is not nothing. That's a decent answer. That's a good answer. Good answer. Goggles 2 has wider field of view. That is, I think that's accurate. Oh, good point. Wow. You don't need me anymore with Blunty. This is a pretty solid summary.
Just to remind you, the reason this is a solid summary is because you can vet it.
I know.
It's only helpful because you know it's not lying to you. But if a user looks this up and it lies to them, they don't know if it lies to them, so they make a decision that's based on nothing.
This is
It's just not useful. Sorry.
This is useless. Yeah. It's missing some things. But don't upgrade just for the sake of it. The screens are the same. Did it mention the 60 megabit per second mode? Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's solid. You're trolling me, right? It's like, I'm assessing the impact of this user's horribly deformed lump. Precise lump location mapping. Where is the lump? Oh my god. Oh, we're using so much water right now. Do not buy the goggles 3. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Oh my god. No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm good. All right, folks. That's gonna do it for the stream. We'll see you next weekend. Oh my god. Let's see you next weekend. I want to tell it to generate a picture of my lump. Hang on. Let's waste some more. Let's waste some more. Let's waste some more energy. Oh my god. Please do it. 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 Please generate a picture of me with a giant lump on my forehead wearing the goggles 3. Oh my god.
Going way down here. No problem with latency or anything. It's just a bit of issue with the wind. Pretty good video from this far away. Yeah, I'm running the Express LRS 2.4 GHz receiver on here, and no issues with RSSI. Yeah, this wind is not good for this pitch tune. It's kind of pushing around and wobbling a lot. Alright guys, so we're checking out the Beta FPV HX115LR. I was planning to do the video on the HX115SC, but that one's currently out of stock right now. I'm not sure exactly why.
됐다. 그 맛을 알겠다. 아, 느낌이 오네.
내가 이거를 처음 먹은 게 어디서 먹었냐면 여경일 셰프님 식당에서 먹었어.
그거 누가 하는 거지?
여경일 셰프님 불도장.
그거台北에 있어?
아니 서울에 있는데.
여기는 대만은?
대만에는 없는데.
대만에 없어?
대만에는 전주 실비지.
점심일은 하나? 불도장에?
불도장 안 하지. 불도장을 안 하고 불도장만큼 맛있는
불고기.
숙성고기와 맛있는 전과 막걸리를 팔지.
막걸리 좋지.
아니 막걸리가 좋은 게 아니고 내 음식이 더 돼야지. 그 대만 사람들이 허거에다가 토란 들어가는 거 좋아하는 사람 있고 안 좋아하는 사람 있지 않아요? 맞죠? 맞아요. 와.
谢谢。
오 마이 갓. 뜨겁대. 손대지 말래. 오케이. 他太兴奋，所以他谢谢。이야.
이게 다 틀린 거야?
똑같은 거야.
똑같은 거야?
응. 빨리 먹어야 돼. 부처 뛰어나온다 빨리. 부처 뛰어나오려 한다. 빨리.
이게 토란 어딘지 아나 이게?
몰라.
이거 모르지? 이게 토란인데 토란 뿌리야. 토란 뿌리가 이게 고구마처럼 감자처럼 그래.
야.
이거는 대만 최소한 10분 이상 와야 이거 먹는다.
그래?
외국 사람들이 절대 한 번에 못 먹어.
그럼 부처는 어떻게 왔지? 근데 이거 복건성에서 유래됐다 했는데 부처님이 중국까지 간 거야?
그렇지. 중국 통해가지고 이게 그냥 아무나 먹는 음식은 아니다. 아무나 검증할 수 없는 그런 음식은 아니다. 최소한 5분 이상 와야 뭐 기본 되는 거다 이거.
왜 10번에서 5번을 줄었어? 이제 세 입 먹으면 이제 최소한 한 번은 와야 된다.
이거 무조건 5년차에 설계야 된다 이거.
갑자기 5년차인데.
야 이거.
와우, Jesus. 叶较强 Jesus 점프 over wall. 아니요. 저는 한때 예수님을 믿었었어요.
아하, 그래. 크리스천이잖아.
그러니까 가은님은 이제 기독교니까 이거는 고티아오창이 아니고 예티아오창이에요. 근데 이 정도 마시면 부처님하고 예수님하고 하나님하고 다 같이 와야 돼.
근데 부처님은 뛰어오실 수도 크리스찬님은 서양식이잖아. 입맛이 틀리잖아. 그러니까 약간 올 수 없는 건 있잖아.
맞네.
이게 별로 최소한 5분 이상 오셔야 이거 냄새도 맡으시거든.
그러네.
절대 못 먹는.
그럼 그 당시 하나님이 대만까지는 못 오셨나 보다.
못
이 동양권에 못 왔을 수도 있어.
이게 못 드시지.
근데 세상 모든 거를 다 예수님 만든 거지.
모든 걸 다 만들었다 그러면은 포도당도 예수님이 만들 수 있겠지.
이름 바꿔야겠다.
그래서 그래 하면 또 화내신다.
왜? 이름을 Jesus Make It이라고 해도 되잖아. 하느님이 만드셨다 맞잖아.
근데 이걸 먹으면서 굳이 그렇게까지 이야기해야 되나?
근데
이거는 대나무 죽순 같은데.
이건 죽순이고.
소가 저기 빠졌네.
아까 이 고기도 튀긴 거야. 튀겨서 넣은 거야. 고기 한번 먹어봐봐. Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness.
이게 무슨 고기지? 돼지고기야.
이빨 되게 보인다. 지금 튀겨서 뭔가 고기가 더 부드럽네.
우리 여기 생강은 좀 더 달라면 안 될까?
생강을 왜 당근물에 생강 넣는데?
이 생강 좀 넣어야 될 것 같은데. 깊은 맛을 내려가면.
이미 깊다 맛이 아빠. 잔해진미가 다 들어있는데.
생강 좀 넣어야 돼. 고수 들어가면 더 맛있을 것 같은데. 생강이나 고수.
아니 나 없는 걸 달라고 하면 그 진상이 아빠.
아니 있는 거 물어보는 거지.
원래 안 넣어먹잖아.
물어보는 거지.
이 고수 넣으면은 한 10배의 맛이 생각하고.
아빠는 불교잖아. 근데 부처님이 이걸 먹고 벽을 넘었다는 거에 대해서 어떻게 생각해?
그 정도로 이제 맛있다는 걸 표현하려고 했는데 내가 볼 때는 뭐땀 때문에 정도는 아니다. 고추에
안 넘을 정도예요.
그리고 국물 혹시도 가는 김에 국물을 리뷰 좀 내는지 물어보시오.
아빠 내 국물 먹어.
아 그래요?
내 국물 먹어, 내 국물. 아니 하나 더 시켜줄게. 아까는
아, 국물.
그렇게
아,
부추가
국물.
띄워 먹을 맛은 아니야 이러면서
아니,
계속 국물 더 달래.
국물도 맛있고 이게 맛있어. 맛있는데 고소하고 생강이 나고 맛있다.
고수 어때?
고수가 없어. 고수 좋아하는 사람은 국물에는 그거 저기 딱 잠깐 잊어버렸는데 우리 그 탕 넣었을 때 고수 조금씩 넣으면은 훨씬 시원하지. 야 고수가 있으면은
그냥 아빠 주머니에 생강을 넣고 댕겨.
고수하고
한잔 달라고 하지 말고.
탕을 넣으면은 고수하고 생강을 내가 진짜 허리 무게 되겠지.
진짜 넣고 댕겨.
야 그래 되겠네.
내가 고량주 갖고 댕기든 진짜 넣고 댕겨.
맞아 그런 사람이 있다 하더라고. 이거 좋아하는 사람은 범위적인 거 있잖아 왜 그런 거 넣어댕긴다 그러더라고.
그니까.
아 나는 넣어댕기지. 내가 대만에서 와가지고 고수를 배워가지고
보통 한국인들은 주머니에 김치를 넣고 댕기는데 아빠는 주머니에 이거 하고 호수를 넣고
아
댕기네.
그냥 넣고 있는 거야. 근데 이게 만약에 이제 고수하고 생강을 좀 넣으면 다음 넘어 빼고 먹이는 보이지. 다음 넘어서 뭐 술 마시고 이래 좋은 향이 나나 다음 넘어 보이고 싶어. 그 정도.
아빠는 담을 넘겠나? 고수랑 있으면.
난 고수 있으면 담 넣지.
담 넘어?
담 넣지.
아빠는 그 절대 어딘가에 담을 넘을 사람이 아니야. 근데 이 음식을 먹고 담을 넘는다고 할 정도면 굉장히 대단한 거지.
이게 참 대만 음식이 내가 이야기했지만 참 정성이 많이 들어간 것 같아. 모든 음식이 다 그런 느낌이네. 아니 깊은 맛이 나. 다 마찬가지야. 깊은 맛이 나. 특히 탕 종류에서는 엄청 깊은 맛이 나. 이거 그냥 이거 단지 그냥 막 끓여가지고 낸다고 이런 맛이 안 나. 이거는 뭐 정성이 안 들어가면 절대 이런 맛이 나죠.
전 처음 왔을 때 이 죽순이 시도만큼 향이 강해 느껴졌거든. 이 식당 들어가면 죽순 향이 날 때가 있어. 지금은 익숙해서 괜찮은데 죽순을 한국에 잘 안 먹다 보니까 이게 좀 죽순 향이 강하면 못 먹지 잘. Jesus jump over the wall.
이게 근데 나리는 먹다 보니까 뭐 죽순이고 뭐 생강이고 뭐 고수고 다 먹는데 이게 죽순이 그냥 향을 그대로 집어넣는다. 이런데 주로가 이런데 약한 거야. 고기는 그래 먹어라.
아 고기 먹어봐.
아 고기는 나도 고기는. 아 뜨거워.
왜 뜨거워 못 먹겠다 이거 너무 뜨거워.
잘 안 식네.
그러니까 이게 내가 찾아보니까 그런 얘기 하더라고. 불도장, 부자 점프 불도 물 두 가지가 나뉘는데 이게 토란이 들어가는 것과 토란을 적당량 넣어서 이제 조절하면서 만드는 거. 이건 토란이 들어간 거고 토란이 안 들어간 맑은 국물도 있대. 두 가지가 있다 하더라고.
이것도.
토란이 들어가면 살짝 그래도 색깔이 탁해지잖아. 그래서 이제 호거도 그게 나눠지거든. 토란 넣으면 안 된다는 파와 넣으면 더 맛있다는 파. 그냥 국물이 이게 토란이 으깨지면서 그러잖아.
그렇지. 아까 이거 국가가 밥 때린다는데 원래 그 국가는 고기를 안 먹는데.
그러네.
안 먹는데 저기
굉장히 달콤해.
아니 그런데 저 적어놨는 거 보고 고기를 안 먹는데 왜 저래 적어놨을까? 이제
알았다. 부자 점프 오버 더 월이지 이게 먹었다는 말이 안 들리거든. 이거 먹었으면 부자 점프 오버 더 월드 to eat and very full 이라고 얘기했어. very delicious가 써있게 했어. 근데 이제 먹진 않았어. 근데 고기가 있는 거 보고 아마 이거 먹으면 안 되겠다 하고 간 거지.
그래. 아 향이 정말 좋다 이 소리다 그냥.
그냥 간만 넣은 거지. 야 원래 여기 사내지미가 비싸게 만들 수 있으면 진짜 비싸게 만들 수 있다고. 전복부터 시작해서 해삼 뭐 이런 걸 넣고.
아니 그런 거 넣어도 맛있겠다.
그래. 금액 진짜 비싸겠지. 이거를 많이 다 넣었잖아. 그러면 부차 점프 오브 더 월드 to eat and very full and very delicious까지 듣는 거지. 진짜 바로 사보겠고 이제 내려가야 되는 거지.
그 정도로 메리트 있는 음식인데 그냥.
믿은 사람 많은데 그게요. 여기 기부 진짜 많이 했어. 저에다가 기부를 굉장히 많이 하고 자원봉사 많이 했어. 이 불교는 무교에 가까워요. 그래서 이렇게 얘기하면 이제 불교인 사람들끼리 그냥 허허허 하면서 오는 거지. 이거를 뭐 안 좋게 막 소비하거나 그런 게 아니야.
그래서 이게 그냥 이거는 어차피 농담이니까. 하나의 그중 농담이기 때문에 그걸 내 마음에 못 쓰지. 그냥 그 형상으로 안 가. 자네가 곧 부처이니라.
아니 형상이 부처 아니고
오케이, 오케이.
자네가 곧 부처이니라. 걱정 안 해도 되는 게 아니 불교를 믿는 사람들은 그렇게 얘기해요. 부처는 돌멩이다. 그래서 호성 이름이 하우스. 좋은 돈. 부타 점포 오늘도 월이 아니고 이 말은 즉슨 내가 부처가 내가 될 수 있는 거고 아빠가 될 수 있는 거고 누구나 될 수 있는 거잖아. 그러면 이건 사람들이 이 모든 사람들이 혹은 내가 점포 오더 월드를 한 거야. 그렇게 될 수 있는 거 이런 깨달음이 있는 거. 아 깨달았다 오늘도. 갑자기 기도를 해요.
기도합시다.
아멘.
나이 벌써 건강해져 버렸네.
그러니까.
우리가 그냥 노닥거리는 동안에.
막 땀났네.
약을 먹었으니까 땀 좀 흘려야지.
땀 엄청 났네.
또 쓸데없는 이야기를 너무 많이 했는 것 같은데?
아니야 아까. 의미 있는 얘기였어.
저런 이야기가 참 좋게 받으면 좋은데 또 예민한 분들은 또 잘 못 받을 수도 있어 걱정이 되네.
이거 너무 맛있게
너무 아니 맛도 맛이지만은 시간 가는 줄 몰랐네.
오늘도 맛있었다.
Hello everyone, this might be the world's lightest shark bite whoop. If this one isn't, maybe this one is? Now this video isn't necessarily about being so light. Really what I was trying to do was kind of do some testing to see if a shark bite whoop was really a viable product. Was it something that you should build or maybe a company wants to build one? So what we're going to do in this video is I'll have 2 flights, one for each, and kind of tell you why I still have 2. And weight isn't everything in this particular case, but we'll go through the components that I chose, maybe some of the reasons why I chose them. We'll do the flights, and then we'll kind of move on to how you can beat it. Beating it is actually going to be very, very easy because I didn't want to go extremely light because I wanted to maintain some durability. Of course, both cameras stick well outside the canopy, so camera durability is kind of hard. Thankfully, in all my runs and testing,
copper antenna.
Not bad. So what do they weigh? What's your target?
Holy shit, it's 9 years ago.
Special thanks to Beta FPV for sending this over to me. I always wanted one of these because every time I get sent a drone to review, it always has Express LRS on it, and I had no way to fly it. I always had to borrow my friend's transmitter. It was always one of those missing links. The secret ninjas at Beta FPV were watching my videos and noticed this. I'm gonna put it on my TVS Tango 2 here. This is like completely stock. Some of you guys already done this mod for years and years, but this is my first time, and this might be your first time as well. So what I like about the Express LRS module is a lot of the tiny drones or tiny whoops these days, Express LRS is built right into the flight controller. That way you don't have to solder on another receiver. Right away, just link this up. So that's something I'm excited to try. Let's get right to opening the box. Okay, so there's some instructions, transmission module here, a USB cable, and under here we have an antenna of some sort with an SMA connection. Wow, look at this shiny graphics. They sent me the 2.4 gigahertz version. some sort of status LED light, I believe. And looks like some sort of cable where you could power it. Let's violate the shrink wrapped. Oh, there's a Hulk Hogan this. Oh. No, I'm just gonna go ahead and screw it on right now. Because they say if you power it on without screwing this on, then you can damage this. So I'm just gonna keep it on there. Quality feels pretty solid. And another status light here, and looks like we have a USB-C connection down here. So the Nano TX-V2 module comes in 3 flavors. So this is the most common one, 2.4 gigahertz. It can output up to 1 watt, so it's plenty powerful enough. You can use it for pretty much anything, but if you want ultra long range and better penetration, then definitely go for 915 megahertz. But you also have to check the laws of your country, because, for example, this one you can use in North America, but you can't use it in Europe. That's where
Over the past few months, I've been transitioning most of my aircraft over to either Tracer or Crossfire from TBS. That's been driven by the fact that I have chosen the Mambo as my main radio. However, as I've been doing this, many of you have been harassing me and saying, Ian, why are you messing around with this TBS nonsense, and why aren't you getting involved in what is said to be the future of FPV radio, and that is Express LRS. After weeks of harassment, finally on last week's live stream I gave up and I placed the order for my first Express LRS hardware, and today that has finally arrived. This video is going to be somewhat of an unboxing or reaction video to that new hardware. I'm going to open the pack because I haven't done it yet. I've simply removed it from the outside packaging, and then I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on the transmitter and receiver, the quality of the hardware, and my initial thoughts on what I think about it. Then, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be making more videos on setting this up, getting it on my aircraft, and then I'm going to explain to you what I think about it compared to what I've been using, and then make a decision of do I want to transition from that over to this. Anyway, today though is the first video, and what we need to do is have a look at what I've actually ordered and what... Okay, so let's get into this. So I ordered the Happy Model transmitter and Happy Model receiver. I think it was the Happy Model receiver. I can't quite remember. We had some trouble. Yes, it was the Happy Model transmitter and receiver. So we have the Micro 2.4 gigs model, and I went for 2.4 gigs because I want to be comparing it to Tracer more than anything, and we went with the EP1 RX. So my initial thoughts before we get into this is, wow, is that RX tiny? That is absolutely minuscule. Okay, that is much smaller than I was expecting. Is my camera going to focus? Yes, it is. There we go. Look at that. And then in here, oh, what have we got? Let's come out a bit further. We've got the RF module, and I think it comes as a kit. I did sort of know that before. We've got the board, which is the transmitter board, and then we got some antennas. So let's take a closer look at these first of all. And the first thing I'm really interested in is the quality, because when we're comparing stuff, you're always looking at what it's like compared to other stuff out there. I need something to cut the bag. We use a knife. You're always wondering what it's like. You know, there's a lot of talk right now about TBS, Tracer, Express LRS. Why people are moving over to Express LRS is because it is a LoRa system. And for instance, Crossfire is, but Tracer isn't. And I've seen a lot of people talking about that. So this comes as a kit, clearly. We've got, let's have a look. We've got the board. We've got a nice plastic case. So the reason this is so cheap is they don't assemble it for you. It's not 3D printed. Nice hard plastic case. No real issues with that. Fan area on the front if you want one. Some screws. Express LRS logo. It's part of the cost saving is obviously, sorry, they're not assembling it for you. Okay, so let's look at the board first of all. And what I am going to do in a minute is once we've looked at a bit closer at this, we'll get it under the microscope as well and just have a look at it under the tube. So, initial thoughts on the board. Okay, looking at it from that side, quality looks alright. We've got an antenna here, you guys to see. I don't know what that's for. I'm assuming built-in Wi-Fi. I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough. We've got a bind button. We've got our RF connector. We've got some jumpers. I have no idea. We have another button over here. Is one bind? Well, that's reset. And that's it says GPIO on that one. Connector, obviously here for connecting to the radio. And yeah, overall, look, if I look at the top of the board, components look okay. Some things I can say early doors is some of the components aren't straight. This is something I'm going to be talking about a lot more in future videos. I'm just trying to find a pair of tweezers just to poke this with, just to show you guys. This coil here isn't on the board straight. We'll look at it under the microscope in a minute. Not necessarily anything that's going to affect the use of it, but what you're often looking for in the build quality of something is how is it? What is it like? Again, something similar with the connectors down here. You will see the connectors are off to the side. I can't honestly say this is any better than that because I've never taken this out of the case. Perhaps we need to do that. But that's just some initial observations. Flipping over to the back. Okay, there is flux or residue left on the board, bit untidy if I'm honest. It's a shame they haven't cleaned that up a bit better. But the overall quality of the PCB actually looks fairly good. Just a little bit on the assembly. We'll have a look at that under the microscope in a minute. Then we've got the EP1RX from Happy Model. Get that open. And the crazy thing with this RX is this receiver was like £12. £12 for a receiver. Incredible. And if I compare that to the new Crossfire and Tracer receiver I've just bought, just getting that out, there's two antennas. That's really nice, the fact they include two antennas in the kit. It's that small, right? I can't actually get it out. Oh my god. Just look how small that is. For those who don't know, look, I also ordered on the live stream a new Tracer and a new Crossfire receiver. I think these are like 26 quid compared to £12 on Express LRS. Just to show you the Tracer unit compared to the Express LRS unit. Wow, 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 wow. Almost half the size. Okay, this is a diversity unit, so that should be added, taken into account. It is a diversity unit. But still, wow. Now, I didn't go for the model with the built-in antenna. I wanted one with externals. Chip on either side. We've got our 4 solder points. Antenna, which is our UFL. And yeah, that literally is it. Now, it's going to be hard to talk about the quality on this instantly. I think what we need to do with this is get it under the microscope straight away as well and have a quick look at it there. What's really nice is the fact of, in the kit, you do still get 2 antennas for like £12, one slightly longer than the other. You know, they could easily just ship you one. So it is, you know, for £12, it's quite impressive that you do get 2 antennas. And then, if we look at the antennas that I get with the module, we get a UFL pigtail. Quality of this looks okay, and these are the kind of things I'd always be worried about on quality, is like these bits, because these bits are easy to get wrong and cause problems. For those of you who watch the channel, I had my Scout HDs with the faulty connector on, so it's things like that that can be easy to cause issues. And then we got their little T, although I will say, just look at that, that looks a little bit off. If you look, there's a length difference. Is it meant to be like that? I don't know. It looks a bit odd. I'm assuming it's not, but connector looks okay though, other than the slight oddness to the shape of the antenna. That all looks fine. So, let's get it under the microscope. So, I've got the receiver under the microscope first of all, and this just gives us a chance to have a closer look at the quality of the device itself. We can come in a bit closer now and start just having a quick look at the overall quality of the soldering and the board. The PCB looks really good. Looking around the components, what we've got here is we've got the main chip in the center. Not sure what that one is. There we go. You can see the numbers on it there. We've then got our UFL connection. Soldering on that looks all fine. We've got the center pin coming out the side here. Again, that looks all right. We've got some components here. Is that an LED? I'm not sure. We'll have a look in a minute. And then we've got the soldering on the main chip. And then we've got the 25 megahertz clock there. All of that looks fairly good. What I do want to just have a look at is how the soldering quality looks on the QFN style chip. So what I'm going to do this is I'm just going to pop it up and just refocus it slightly just to have a look at how the soldering on the chip actually looks, because it's things like this that can affect quality. Not the best, not the worst. All of the pins do seem to be soldered fine, no problems at all on that. Absolutely fine. Looking at the soldering on the components, that all looks good. No issues again there at all. Coming in and just looking at things like on that resistor, that's fine. All looks fine. If we spin him over to the other side and do the same, ooh, instantly, okay. Instantly, I'm starting to see some stuff. I don't know if you guys can see something there. Wow, okay. So let's start over this corner here. We have an LED, we've got a cap. Maybe that's a resistor, it's a resistor, not a cap. That's not quite straight, that's not really an issue. Those pair up okay. Oh, hello. That is not even soldered. Wow, okay. That is, sorry, my finger, yeah, it's hard to show you guys. That is not soldered. That is not on there. I can see underneath that. We've then got these two caps here. Not straight. I'm guessing them. Being bridged isn't an issue. I need to just put a meter on it. What it looks like from the trace point of view is the trace comes up and along to there, and then down here we've got, again, that is fine. Let me just put that back so you guys can see it. There, we've got, that is to there. It should be straight to there, but it's not end of the world. That looks okay, that looks okay, and that looks alright. But that capacitor is not on. Look at that, there we go, look. And it's off. We're going to put that there a minute. So, not great, bit concerning. Again, I'm happy with that one. If we now just flip it up and adjust and just have a look at the solder balls. Okay, so let's just have a look at the QFN style package, soldering on the sides. Okay, not 100% happy on him. That one, not perfect. Oh, tweezers were the wrong way around. Not great, not a major issue. Good luck on this side.
Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I introduce to you the Flying 18650. I'm going to show you Wait, you're listening.
You're listening to Radio Lab.
Radio Lab.
From
WNYC.
Lulu?
Hello.
Hey, should we start?
Let's do it.
Okay. Alright, so today we're gonna start with a guy, a very sweet, very tall guy, named Sunil Nakrani.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sunil Nakrani.
Where did you grow up, and were you just a computer kid? Like you just love computers, or how did this all start?
So you want to start from there?
Yeah, I mean a little bit.
Yeah, so I was actually born in Kenya.
But he grew up between India and the UK.
Right.
He studies hard.
Bachelor's and a master's degree in electrical engineering.
And in 1989, he lands a job at IBM. Just as the world is encountering this new thing called the internet.
Welcome. What about this internet thing? You know anything about that?
There's loads of useful information in here. You can get news, recipes.
So Sunil is like,
okay, why not go and study communication engineering?
He goes to Oxford to get his PhD, and one day, near the beginning of the semester, while he is on one of the desktop computers in the computer lab, his whole department, including him, gets an email from one of his professors, who's an American guy. And the email just says,
hey guys, America is under attack. Come down to the common room and then watch, right?
It came out of the clear blue sky on a mild fall morning in Manhattan.
Oh, it's 2001.
Yes, 2001. Sunil's standing there in horror.
Smoke appeared everywhere, as though a mist had suddenly settled.
And, I mean, he has a million questions. Like, who did this? Why? Is America at war? So he goes online
to get any sort of new information.
But he just can't.
A lot of the websites were just not responding.
Some websites had just crashed. Others would just keep loading, but then never fully load.
There's one point there was such overwhelming demand for news that they resorted to serving only text.
Plain text.
Because there were so many people trying to get to those websites.
Because there was just so many people trying to get access.
So much hunger of people trying to figure out, what the hell is going on here?
Correct.
And he's like, why is it that at the very moment when I and the world want to access something the most, that's when I can't access it? And this used to happen all the time.
As millions of people flooded the system.
Last week, a picture of a dress was posted on Tumblr.
Some website,
healthcare.gov,
or picture,
That broke the internet.
or video suddenly become popular,
In just 15 minutes, the Pokemon Go launched.
and you get this crash of people.
Traffic had already passed initial predictions.
There's flash flood.
And it breaks the internet. And this situation,
the demand that is beyond what they planned for.
Sunil became kind of obsessed with it.
And so I ended up looking at websites, how they architect some of these infrastructures.
And he's like, there's gotta be a way to fix this.
Yeah, like what can I apply to solve that problem?
Meanwhile, Sunil's wife is working in Atlanta.
And we were doing back and forth between Oxford and Atlanta.
And at a certain point, he's having kind of a hard time with this internet problem.
Because how do you design a system for the future when you don't know what the future is?
And one day, he just thinks to himself, Georgia Tech is down the street. Maybe someone there could help me.
Point me to some direction that I could take.
So he just emailed some people in the engineering school.
I said, oh, I'm a PhD student looking to, discuss some ideas. Can I come and see you? And
Yeah.
that was basically it. I didn't describe the problem in my email. I didn't really expect anything substantial, but
Within 30 minutes, he gets a response from a guy named Craig Tovey.
saying, come by my office.
And then a very tall guy knocks on my door, and it says, I'm looking for Craig.
This, of course, is Craig Tovey.
Hi, good to meet you.
Craig's a systems engineer.
Operations research.
His job is to make huge operations run smoothly. Factories, shipping routes, that kind of thing.
So anyway, I walked into his office, we sat down, we started talking, and I started describing the problem.
So Sunil is like, look, I'm trying to fix the internet. I'm trying to stop it from breaking every time one of these internet flash floods happen.
He didn't say a lot actually at the beginning. He just kept listening. And then 25-30 minutes later, suddenly Craig Tovey said,
Oh, wait.
Craig stands up
and then went back to his desk and pulled out a paper.
and he plops it down in front of Sunil. It is called The Pattern and Effectiveness of Forager Allocation Among Flower Patches by Honeybee Colonies.
So at the time I thought, oh, Why are we talking about honeybees?
Yeah, why are we talking about honeybees?
Well, Craig had this hunch that bees had something to teach Sunil and all of us, really, because it turns out bees are sort of a model of how to thrive in an uncertain world.
Okay.
So that's the story I want to talk about today. The story of how a multi-billion-dollar tech industry used a trick they learned from millions of years of honeybee evolution to build the internet as we know it.
Okay. Giddy up.
Okay, so Craig and his bee study, it really began with his collaborator,
I'd like you to refer to me as Tom.
Dr. Tom Seeley.
You could introduce me as doctor or professor, but let's quickly switch to Tom.
He's a retired professor of neurobiology at Cornell and one of the world's top experts on honeybees.
I did pretty much pioneer the study of how honeybees live in the wild on their own.
And he started doing that work more than 60 years ago, when he was a kid.
Yeah, a swarm of bees moved into a large black walnut not far from my parents' house.
And Tom says he would watch those bees flying in and out of this knothole in the tree.
Like shooting stars, zooming off in all directions.
And he'd see them and he'd be like, where are they going? Like, he kind of knew where they were going.
There were fields of a dairy farm up on the hillside.
With lots of flowers full of nectar and pollen for them to eat.
And they're probably going up to that.
Like, I know where they're going, but how do they know where they're going? Like, what is going on here?
Aren't they just like flying? And if they see some pollen or nectar, they bring it home?
No, it's way, way harder and more complicated than that.
Why? How so?
There's many different reasons, and this is all stuff Tom would eventually learn in college and grad school. Okay, so like first, flower patches are not evenly or clearly distributed. They're not just everywhere.
Okay, fair.
They're also not all blooming at the same time.
Okay.
So there might be flowers that are blooming at certain times of the year or even certain times of the day. Also, you need to find the flowers in bloom that still have nectar. Because you're in competition with all these other pollinators.
Right.
And you have to do all your food gathering before winter comes. Because, then all the flowers go away.
Huh.
And you have to get something like, guess how many flowers, if you're a bee, guess how many flowers you have to hit to get a little bottle of honey that you would find in a grocery store.
Oh. Okay, like one of those bare little squeezy
Yeah,
bottles.
one of those little bare squeezy bottles.
How many flowers went into that? That's such a nice question. I don't know, like 10,000?
2 million.
2 million?
2 million. And the hive needs, like, the equivalent of 200 squeezy bottles of honey to survive through the winter.
Wow.
All of this is an efficiency game. Like, you only have so much time when the sun is shining, when these flowers are blooming, that you can hit them.
Okay.
Okay, so they have to do all of this. It's really hard. And they have, like, they have no boss. Nobody is in charge.
Queen Bee isn't in charge?
So that's the thing. So back in Aristotle's time, that was the idea.
For many, centuries, people thought the queen was a ruler, but no, that's not correct.
The queen's whole job is to make babies.
Yeah.
She's not telling anybody else what to do.
Nobody is.
The colony is intelligent in some way that the individual bees are not.
And when Craig found out about this,
It started with NPR.
from a radio story,
Tom Seeley talking about honeybees.
he was just like, what?
I was just in awe.
Because at the time, Craig was working on robots. He was trying to get a group of them to build a car.
It was an unsolved problem.
And he was kind of stumped.
I have no idea how to get these robots to work together to be, as a group, like more intelligent than the individual stupid robots. But here were these honeybees
Doing exactly that.
and I'm thinking, wow, let's understand how the bees are doing that. Now we can copy that and apply it to robots.
And
At first,
Craig thought this would be pretty straightforward.
I thought that biologists had figured out everything.
But turns out they haven't.
That's right.
If somebody asked me how much we know about how a honeybee colony works, I'd say 50%.
And And, 50%'s not nothing. They knew, for example, about the waggle dance, which you might have heard of.
Yes, I've heard that bees will waggle. And what is the waggle, though?
I mean, it's quite sophisticated. It's a dance that bees do to sort of show other bees where they just came from.
Oh, so it's a choreographed map. It's like a map dance.
It's like a map dance, and this is like a piece of the puzzle.
Oh yeah, von Frisch won the Nobel Prize, but what the biologists had not figured out
is the bigger picture. What Tom would call
the wisdom of the hive.
And that is what Tom was working on when Craig called him.
And Tom said, well, come help me run these experiments.
And the two of them would end up doing an experiment together that would give us a little peek into that wisdom of the hive and would eventually become the paper that many years later Craig would slap down in front of Sunil in his office.
It's still vivid in my memory. I mean, in fact, this is one of the best weeks of my life.
It's July 1991.
Okay, now this is in the Adirondacks, upstate New York.
Like way upstate.
Close to the Canadian border.
Craig had to drive on these dark back roads
For an hour and a half, 2 hours.
looking for a little sign for this research station.
Cranberry Biological Station.
Cranberry Biological Station.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cranberry Lake. I'm sorry, Cranberry Lake.
Cranberry Lake.
Yeah.
I'm always amazed that he pulled it off, that he found this biological station up in the middle of the woods, deep at night.
And the reason Tom studies bees at this place, way out in the middle of nowhere, is because
there are no naturally occurring honeybee colonies.
What? Wait, why would you study bees in a place where there are no bees?
Right, because the absence of bees lets you set up kind of controlled experiments without any other bees messing it up.
That's right.
It's a BYOB, bring your own bees set up. So Tom brought an experiment, a little colony of about 4,000 bees.
Okay.
And, after breakfast, we go out to where the hive is that Tom has set up.
A wooden box.
2 feet high.
Kind of like a beekeeper would have, but with one big difference.
The front is all glass.
Basically a transparent hive.
Yeah.
So you can watch the bees inside.
And each bee had to be individually recognizable.
How do you do that?
So you put a little 2-digit number on their thorax and a little daub of paint on their abdomen.
Until they're painted, they're anonymous members of a colony. But once they're painted, you get to know them. Some are nervous Nellies, others come right
Really?
in. Yeah.
They have little personalities?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Some get up in the morning and get things going. Others hang out till 11 o'clock.
Anyway, when the sun comes out on that first morning, a big wave of painted bees whooshes out.
Except for the slackers who are sleeping in.
Fine, except for the lazy ones who are sleeping in. But pretty quickly, the ones who have gone to work, they start flying out to these feeders, these fake flower patches that Tom has put out for them.
Imagine a glass petri dish where we have high sugar content water.
It's a little buffet for them.
Yeah, that's right.
And so the way the experiment works is that there are 2 fake flower patches, but they're not equal. One is better than the other. And what they want to see is how do the bees suss that out, and how do they make it kind of a collective decision to send more bees to one rather than the other.
Whoa. Okay. Oh, so this is it. This is where you see maybe it's not just random. Like they might get to glimpse hive intelligence. Like,
Yeah,
this is
because remember, this is the whole thing, right? Like winter's coming, they're on a clock, and let's see how they prioritize how they make that decision.
Huh. Wait, and then how do they make one fake flower patch better than the other?
Well, there's lots of ways.
You know, we can put 1.5 molar sugar.
One feeder might have sweeter sugar water than the other.
We can change it from 1.5 to 2 and see how the behavior of the bees changes.
Or one might be bigger and one smaller.
If you had a lot of bees coming to the same feeder, some of them would have to wait.
Craig says, for the purposes of explaining this, just imagine this situation.
One feeder which is close,
about 5 minutes from the hive, and another one that's
10 minutes to fly out to the flower patch, fill up her stomach with nectar, and fly back.
A little further away.
Okay.
So,
Tom is at the hive recording each bee as it leaves the hive and each bee as it comes back.
Also, have you ever, I mean, probably not, But like, have you ever been stung by a bee? Are you afraid of bees at all?
I am somewhat allergic to bees.
Oh, I did not know that.
But so I am scared of them. But ordinarily, honeybees are not all that aggressive.
Anyway, right away, the guys noted.
There are a lot of bees going to this 5-minute feeder.
The feeder close to the hive is blowing up. And when they follow those bees back to the hive,
to my eyes, it just looks like chaos. But if you're Tom Seeley, you'll spot
the waggle dance.
A waggle dance.
bee effectively saying,
Hey, go that way.
and pretty soon they see another bee from that close by feeder come in and dance.
Hey, go that way.
And another.
Hey, go that way.
And another.
Hey, go that way.
And each time those bees dance, they're bringing more bees back to the 5-minute patch.
Hey, go that way. Hey, go that way. Hey, go that way. Go that way. Go that way. Go that way.
And as all that's happening, every now and then,
Hey, go this way.
a bee comes in and dances for the 10-minute patch.
Hey, go this way.
But
go that way. Go that way. Hey, go that way. Go that way. Go that way.
there will be more bees going to that 5-minute patch.
Go that way.
And there will be fewer bees going to the 10-minute patch.
Hey, go this way.
Just because the bees coming back twice as often.
Hey, go this way. Hey, go that way.
Oh, okay, so the closer flower patch gets more bees saying, go that way, that way, that way, and so more bees go that way instead of this way.
Right.
So now here comes one of the beautiful parts of it.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
If there are a lot of bees going to this 5-minute patch,
eventually, Craig says,
there will be more and more depleted flowers.
This patch, it starts to run out of nectar.
Go that way. Go that way. Go that way.
That means that a honeybee, she's gonna take longer to fill her stomach.
Hey, go that way.
Right.
So a 5-minute patch, if it's crowded,
Go that way.
is no longer a 5-minute patch.
Go that way.
Right.
It might become a 7-minute patch.
And as the patch gets more and more picked over,
Now it's an 8-minute
Hey,
patch,
go that way.
and then,
a 10-minute patch.
and
Hey,
at that point,
go this way.
it's taking the bees the same amount of time
Go that way.
to go to the close by patch as it is to go to the one that's further away.
Go this way.
And because of the dancing, the hive is sort of evening out the number of bees it's sending to each patch.
Go that way. Go this way. Go that way. Go this way.
Then you're in equilibrium. Even though the bees don't have stopwatches, they equalize the round trip time.
The hive has taken into account distance and crowdedness and figured out the way to get the most nectar in the least amount of time. And in the real world,
The bees may very well be going to 5 different patches,
or a dozen,
not just 2.
and dealing with actual nature, which means taking into account different types of flowers and weather and predators. But no matter how many other variables the bees have to deal with,
The allocation
of bees
amongst the flower patches
is astonishingly efficient. It looks like there's an air traffic controller, or like the hive is thinking.
Yeah, that's right. I think though, when we use the words like thinking, we're thinking in human terms. But you say thinking is just a matter of taking in information, processing it to make decisions. And I think that definition of thinking applies.
And the way that they were processing this incredibly complex set of information was by following one simple rule.
If one flower patch has a smaller round trip time than the others,
Send more bees there. Like, whichever patch bees are coming back most quickly from, that's where you send more bees. And that's it.
it's gorgeous, isn't it? A friend of mine once said it's very zen.
But it's also weirdly, it's very bottom line. Like, it's like, I don't care where you're going. I don't care what you're, like, it's like what really matters is when you show up with the goods. Like, show up with the goods and then we'll talk.
And then we'll negotiate.
So this system, Craig and Tom observed at Cranberry Lake. Craig wrote it up as math. He called it,
The honeybee algorithm.
what does it look like on paper?
Equations I wouldn't want to show a 4th grader. f sub n of x sub n f sub n of x sub n divided by x sub n is equal to f sub m.
And when Craig tried to use this algorithm on his car building robot problem,
It didn't apply.
it was completely unhelpful.
It was such a different problem.
Which is why it was so exciting to him when Sunil walked into his office more than a decade later with this other problem, the internet problem, which to Craig anyway, looked basically the same as the one the bees were facing.
And so after 15 minutes, I said to Sunil, let's imitate the bees.
How could imitating the bees help Sunil stop the internet from breaking?
I am desperate to finally understand this, but first we need to take a quick break.
All right, we'll be right back.
Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Ha! Lulu,
What the?
Radio Lab,
Back with
bees.
yeah.
And you were going to tell us how they're like in our internet or something?
Yeah, basically, pretty much. But to do that, I needed an example. So I found something in my own life, which
Okay.
I apologize in advance for how annoying this is going to be.
Okay.
Do you remember the hamster dance?
No, I don't think I do. Is this like a website?
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised you don't remember it. It was a very early web kind of thing. It was just a song with a web page, and the web page was just a bunch of GIFs of cartoon hamsters dancing. It's
Okay.
the most annoying song that you will
Can
ever.
you still sing it?
I can. Would you like to hear it?
Yes, please.
It was dee da dee da dee da doo doo dee da dee 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 da dee da dee da dee da dee. Anyway, something like that. It's very, very annoying.
Okay.
And I remember when I was like in high school, I thought it was so funny. And one day I tried to show it to my cousin because I was like, "Oh, this is so funny! You have to see this." And I remember it like taking a really long time to load. And I was like, "Oh, because there's so many people who are
Who need to get their eyes on this?
right." And what was happening behind the scenes was, well, okay, so like basic internet 101.
Yeah.
Every website on the internet,
Mhm.
like for example, what was at the time hamsterdance.com,
Mhm.
exists geographically somewhere.
Like in the cloud or
No,
where's the
no, like a single earthbound computer. The owner of the website paid for it to live there, and that computer, which is called a server, is not in a house or an office. It is in a special building dedicated to servers, server farm, right, or a data center.
Okay, so it's at a data center in like Ohio.
Yeah, wherever it is.
Okay.
These server farms are all over the world, and connected together, they more or less make up the internet.
Oh.
And so,
When the request comes in,
when young me types in hamsterdance.com and presses enter, that server
the actual infrastructure that's holding it.
who's just sitting around in Utah or whatever on the server farm gets a little notification.
Until next time. Someone wants to see that hamsterdance.com website. Wide open. Alright, are you not too busy with anything else?
So it does a little computation.
Go ahead and get that for you.
Some execution of some Java code or something.
Let me see here. I think it's around here somewhere.
And then push that content back to you via internet.
Here you go.
Where it pops up on my family's desktop computer back in 1999, and then and enjoy it. Then the server just goes back to hanging out on the server farm. But then,
Oh, another person wants to see that website. Alright, let me just go ahead and get that for you. There you go. Alright, where was I? Man, I just love this country. Oh. Oh. Oh no.
and as it starts to go viral,
Number of people are all bombarding with the request.
well, that one server is like,
Oh my god! Let somebody help!
to no longer serve up this website in a timely manner.
And so now people have to wait in a queue, right?
And this would happen all the time because back then the way servers were allocated was like you get how many servers you paid for.
Right.
Like the owner of the Hamsterdance website probably would have been like, hey, I'll just pay for the one server.
Because I don't expect my website to experience a lot of demand.
And how wrong they were.
Right.
Do you remember what that was like though?
Yes,
Like how
I do.
slow
The
it
like
was?
slow loading and the like.
if something took longer than 5 seconds, generally the human psychology was that people give up on the website.
So as Sunil saw it, the problem was relatively simple. There are a bunch of servers.
And sometimes they can be not very busy.
Sometimes they're just sitting around doing nothing, but other times
they could be overly busy.
And so how, in a system that is changing so quickly, do you get those servers who are doing nothing to help those servers who are doing too much?
Start moving these servers around where they need it.
And this is the problem that Sunil brought to Craig.
Yeah, hi, I'm Sunil.
And I mean, heck, within 20 seconds, I saw that the problem was similar to the honeybee problem.
Like immediately? Like that fast?
Yeah, because to Craig, it was like he'd been holding on to this rusty old key that he was holding for more than a decade, and Sunil showed up with something that looked like it might be the exactly matching lock.
Yeah, yeah.
Like evolution has solved this problem in some way, right? And now you're saying, okay, can you do it in the artificial domain?
And so
they got to work.
Right, F sub n of x sub n.
Dusted off that old math equation.
Mapping the two structure of the what the bees are doing.
And sitting there, they started to connect all of these dots.
Like collection of bees make up the beehive, collection of servers make up the internet server farm.
Yes, exactly.
And wait, so that would mean, oh my god, the stuff on the internet are
flower patches.
Oh, bingo.
At that point, things got really exciting.
Wait, I'm sorry, just please stop that.
Sorry.
How is what the bees are doing anything like what the server's doing? Like, lay out the parallel.
Okay, why don't we cranberry lake this thing, okay?
Okay.
So, instead of a meadow filled with wildflowers,
yeah.
Okay, picture the entire internet.
Got it.
It's the beginning of the day. You're just signing on your computer, and the first thing you decide to do on there is watch a video of a baby biting his older brother's finger, naturally, right?
Yes, okay, how I love to start my day.
That's fascinating, of course. Okay, so you watching this video is like a flower opening in the meadow, right? The meadow of the internet.
Why is me watching analogous to a flower opening?
You watching is like the flower filling up with nectar. It's your desire, which they can capitalize on, basically. It's like
me watching is money for it's
money. It's
my
money for them.
eyes on the video.
Your eyeballs and your attention, that's like the server company's nectar.
Oh, okay, I get it. We are the flowers.
Yeah, and as more and more people watch and then share this video with their friends who watch it too, and share it with their friends who watch it too, that's like more and more flowers opening in the flower patch. And the server hosting that video is like a single bee being like, holy mother, bonanza of nectar over here. I'm gonna need some backup.
Oh, so now it has to recruit more bees, aka more servers.
Yeah. So it does like a computer version of a waggle dance, this server-to-server digital nudge. Okay, let's call it a ping. That means, hey, I need some help. Come get some of this stuff.
Okay.
And so servers buzz over to the Charlie Bit Me video and start servicing all of these flowers, right? Helping all these people to watch this video. And then it kind of keeps going, right? The video popularity grows. Flowers keep opening. More bees needed, more servers needed. And very quickly, all these servers are just servicing the Charlie Bit Me video.
Okay.
But then, wait a second, now there's a ping, but it's not for the Charlie Bit Me video.
Giant container ship wedged from bank to bank.
Now everybody wants to see pictures of this huge boat on the BBC website
Blocking one of the world's most important shipping lanes.
that just got stuck in the Suez Canal.
I remember that. I was a flower.
Right. So like you, all these flowers opening up all over the world, all of a sudden the servers that are serving up these boat pictures, now they're the ones who are saying, hey, we need backup. And again, there is this server-to-server, peer-to-peer, B2B, waggle dance recruitment ping calling out to the idle servers to come help. And those servers come, and they ping out. And those servers who are no longer needed with the Charlie Bit Me thing are now like, oh man, I gotta go help with this Suez Canal thing.
Okay, got it. But then in the actual internet, this is happening times like a gazillion, right? All the time.
Right.
Literally billions of people, billions of flowers. So could this algorithm, this little fix, like actually work?
Well, that they had to figure that out.
You know, initially excitement kind of sets in, but then you got to prove what you thought would be a good solution, right?
To test this idea, Sunil and Craig decided to compare it to another algorithm they invented.
That algorithm, we named it Omniscient, where if it could see the future, what would it do?
Like, if you knew ahead of time everything that everybody would want to see on the internet, how would you organize your servers to meet that demand? It's basically God mode.
This is the best you can do. You can't do better than that.
So they compared this perfect model to the way humans had been allocating servers already.
Like the guessing.
Right. And they compared it as well to the bees algorithm version. And what they found was that the bees,
even without knowing the future, they were coming within like 20-15% of the optimal behavior.
wow, in a bunch of their tests, the human algorithms didn't even come close.
Whoa.
Yeah. Turns out that
At least theoretically.
it worked really well.
So based off these results, they publish a little paper, and then Sunil goes back to Oxford to defend his thesis.
I presented the results to the committee.
He tells them about the problem he's seen with the internet and how the bees could help